Chapter 5001. Oh, does it mean that the higher one's power is, the less stable the transmission tunnel is? Xiaohua asked curiously. Yes, this is one of the reasons. Bright Moon Householder nodded hastily. There wasn't any passage from the Yilin continent to the Lost Land. But a transmission tunnel was built at an unknown time. This tunnel is very unstable, and it's always on and off. So, the higher the power of a cultivator, the easier it is for him to make the tunnel collapse. Of course, this transmission tunnel is still safe, and it's much better than the outside world. But, even so, it's still not a place where we can go. After Bright Moon Householder reached this point, he suddenly understood and said with a smile, "Senior, do you want to use this transmission tunnel? If that's the case, I will pass down an order to the Illusion Immortal Alliance and the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance, which are near the Wuming Mountain Range, and ask them to cooperate with you." "Don't," Xiaohua said with a smile and waved his hand. "I've already infiltrated them, and I'm about to pass their selection. So, wouldn't I be bored if you passed down the order?" "Senior, you still want to pass the selection?" Bright Moon Householder was taken aback. He then asked curiously, "Do these immortal alliances have any plans?" "Yes, how could I have reached the Heavenly Wind Forbidden Land if I hadn't passed the selection of the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance?" Xiaohua explained the matter with a smile. Then he said, "It's just a trivial matter, and the Heavenly Alliance doesn't need to meddle in it. I want to see what plans the demon race has." When Bright Moon Householder heard about the demon race, he was startled. But when he thought about the demon venerable that he had just witnessed, as well as the demonized dragon god's son that had been crushed by Xiaohua's palm, he calmed down and said with a smile, "Senior, since you want to play with them, I won't disturb your mood and alert them." After he said this, he hesitated for a moment and reminded him, "Senior, among the 72 immortal alliances of the Heavenly Alliance, the Illusion Immortal Alliance and the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance are near the edge of the Wuming Mountain Range. Especially the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance. Their leader is called Lian Feng. He's a Taoist disciple who cultivates the nascent soul. Moreover, he's only a late-stage combination cultivator. Therefore, he's an unworthy leader in the Heaven Alliance. Not only does he have no status in the ordinary alliances, but the nearby immortal alliances also look down on him. As far as I know, Lian Feng is also an ambitious man. In his early years, he had some conflicts with the Illusion Immortal Alliance. Later, Long Shensi called him over and gave him a good scolding. Lian Feng's idea of expanding his forces to other places was crushed. Then he coveted the Wuming Mountain Range. I heard that he sent many disciples to infiltrate the Changchang Plains and join forces with the local soul cultivators. However, when he wanted to infiltrate deep into the Wuming Mountain Range, he couldn't. Therefore, he set his sights beyond the Wuming Mountain Range and looked at the Lost Land. Before I left the Lost Land, I was a low-level disciple. Xiaohua nodded and replied thoughtfully, "I didn't see the layout of the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance, but since the name of the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance has spread, I'm afraid Lian Feng's arrangement has some effect." "I don't know much about this, Senior." Bright Moon Householder said embarrassedly, "This matter was reprimanded by the Alliance Master Long Shensi. So, it's not appropriate for me to ask about it. Moreover, my Heavenly Alliance is naturally peaceful now that Lian Feng isn't causing trouble in the Yilin continent. As for where he's developing his strength, my Heavenly Alliance can't say anything about it. I presume that Lian Feng wanted to meddle in the Lost Land and occupy it. Therefore, the devil took advantage of this opportunity and invaded it. Senior, since you're going there, could you do me a favor and take a look at that Lian Feng? Oh, and their Deputy Alliance Master Jia's Wuxia? See whether they've been possessed by the devil or not. If they've been possessed by the devil, please help me." Xiaohua waved his hand and said with a smile, "You're thinking too much. I was only a nascent soul cultivator at the selection site. So, how could I possibly see their Alliance Master? You can go and see for yourself after some time." "That's good," Bright Moon Householder said with a smile. "After we go back, we'll have to discuss the alliance between the Heavenly Alliance and the Taoist Alliance. So, this alliance meeting must be held." Xiaohua wanted to mention that the Kunlun mirror could take them to the Dawn Rain continent. However, he thought that their lives would be in his hands. Moreover, these cultivators were the mainstays of the Yilin continent. Moreover, he had made many arrangements before leaving the three continents. So, how could they leave so easily? Moreover, he couldn't wait for a long time. So, it wasn't realistic for the Heavenly Alliance to follow him to the Dawn Rain continent. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't mention this matter. He said with a smile, "Since you can't pass through the Wuming Mountain range, you'd better not take this risk. Perhaps, after the Immortal formation is broken, the change of the spiritual energy in the Dawn Rain continent and the Yilin continent will slow down. At that time, the gate of the celestial realm may appear again." Gu Qiong's face was filled with joy at first, but it soon turned bitter. Xiaohua's words were reasonable. However, he didn't believe that he could sense the gate of the celestial realm just because the Immortal formation was broken. However, this kind of cultivation path was the will of the world. So, Xiaohua naturally couldn't dispel his doubts. Does the Heavenly Alliance have any records about the Wuming Mountain range and the teleportation tunnel? Xiaohua asked Bright Moon Householder. Bright Moon Householder replied embarrassedly, "Senior, I had some records about it. But I had to cross over to the other world, so those things were destroyed. After I came back, I just cultivated calmly and didn't pay attention to them. If Alliance Master Long Shensi was here, he would have..." "Hee, forget it if you don't have them." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "I will act according to the circumstances." "Senior," Bright Moon Householder reminded him, "your cultivation has already surpassed the Yilin continent's worldly law. So, you should pay more attention to the Wuming Mountain range. Don't be too careless." "Okay, I got it." Xiaohua looked at the crowd and said with a smile, "You made a trip in vain this time. But since the Tao Alliance and the Heavenly Alliance joined hands, this trip could be considered a successful one." "Yes." Gu Qiong and Bright Moon Householder exchanged a glance before they bowed and said, "We have received Senior Zhao's teachings today. In the future, the cultivation path of the Tao Alliance's billions of cultivators will be our top priority. We will support each other and cross this great tribulation together. After we come back, we will carry out the details of our previous discussion. Senior, you can rest assured." Taoist Ji Yen said, "Moreover, we will inform the Heavenly Alliance and the Tao Alliance's other cultivators about your plan. We won't overlook it." "Good." Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoists, the spirits of the Tao Ancestor and the Tao Master in the heavens will also smile. However, other than the matter of my Tao sect, I'm still concerned about the billions of living beings in the three continents. I've mentioned the Immortal formation before. May I know if any of you have seen the records of this Immortal formation?" Gu Qiong and Bright Moon Householder exchanged a glance again. Bright Moon Householder said, "Senior, when you went to collect the water origin, we discussed it with fellow Taoist Gu Qiong and many other fellow Taoists. The celestial array was never mentioned in the records of the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance. If you didn't mention the Lost Land today, we wouldn't even know that the Lost Land is called the Dawn Rain continent. Therefore, we are powerless to break the celestial array." "It doesn't matter." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "If you can help us, then help us. If you can't help us, then we will. Then, we won't disturb you anymore. We hope that you can pass the selection smoothly and reach the Lost Land as soon as possible." Gu Qiong said with a smile, "Of course, we also hope that you can break the celestial array as soon as possible. Not only will you save the billions of living beings in the three continents, but you will also let us sense the gate of the celestial realm again." Thank you. I hope that I won't disappoint you." Xiaohua raised his hand to return the salute, and the others also saluted and left. However, the Yi family's old ancestor and Old Man Peacock said with a smile, "Fellow Taoists, please go ahead. We still have some matters to discuss with Senior Xiao." Gu Qiong and the others knew that Xiaohua would reward them handsomely for their hard work. Therefore, they nodded their heads and left first. After they left, Kong Chang took a deep look at Yi Zhen and said with a meaningful smile, "Fellow Taoist Yi, it seems that your matter is quite secretive. Then, I will make a deal with Senior Xiao first." "Okay, fellow Taoist Kong, please go ahead. Yijin nodded with a smile. Xiaohua looked to his left and said, fellow Taoist Kong, this is the edge of the realm, and it's not convenient for us to exchange the magnetism. Why don't we go somewhere else first? Oh, it's my mistake. Kong Chang slapped his forehead and said with a smile, I neglected this matter. Senior, please. Senior Xiao, I'll wait here. Yijin said to avoid arousing suspicion. But Xiaohua nodded and flew away with Kong Chang. After they left the heavenly wind forbidden area, Kong Chang and Xiaohua flew for the time it took to brew a cup of tea before they stopped. They looked around and said, Senior, although this place is still within the heavenly wind forbidden area, it's already far from the center. What do you think of this place? Xiaohua shook his head and said, No, we need to go further. Senior, you mean? Kong Chang was shocked. Then joy appeared on his face and he hurriedly said, Okay, Senior, please. After flying for the time it took to eat a meal, Kong Chang stopped again. Seeing Xiaohua nod, he took out a storage ring and respectfully handed it to Xiaohua. Senior, I'll have to trouble you to put the magnetism inside. Junior will take a look. Oh, by the way, I haven't asked what magnetism is this? Metal and wood magnetism, I wonder if you're satisfied. Xiaohua took the storage ring and answered casually. Kong Chang was overjoyed and nodded his head like a chicken pecking rice. Of course, it's excellent. As Xiaohua spoke, he took out the Kunlun mirror. Under the urging of his magic power, a beam of light emerged from the mirror. Then, Xiaohua took out the metal and wood magnetism from the Southern Sea Dragon Palace and put it into the Yin and Yang bracelet. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote for a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5002. As soon as the metal and wood elemental magnet entered the Heaven and Earth bracelet, the Heaven and Earth bracelet immediately trembled and cracks appeared on its surface. Xiaohua's face was pale as he hurriedly took out the metal and wood elemental magnet from the collapsed space. Not only did Xiaohua's expression change slightly, but even Kong Chang was greatly shocked. Looking at the Heaven and Earth ring that was rapidly turning into fragments, he anxiously said, Senior, fortunately. Xiaohua waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand and said with some lingering fear, I saw the opportunity early and the metal and wood magnetism didn't disappear with the collapse of space. Junior was careless. Kong Chang smiled bitterly and said, although Junior was prepared, I didn't expect Senior's magnetism to be so big. Senior's magnetism seems to be what Junior thought. Yes, this metal and wood magnetism is more than 3,650 mu in size. Xiaohua nodded and said, What? Kong Chang was dumbstruck and said in surprise, Senior, how much did you say? 3,650 mu? This? Xiaohua was very innocent and didn't know why Kong Chang was so surprised. He replied, It's 3,650 mu? How big is your Peacock Mountain Manor's magnetism? Senior. Even though Kong Chang was a Dao integration cultivator and didn't lack experience, when he heard the size of the metal and wood magnetism, he was still shocked speechless. After a long while, he stammered, My Peacock Mountain Manor's magnetism is more than 360 mu. Then this thing? Xiaohua asked, Does fellow Taoists still want it? Yes, how can I not want it? Kong Chang hurriedly nodded and said, Junior definitely wants it. However, the Junior can delay Senior for a while. Take this. Speaking up to here, Kong Chang didn't say anything else and hurriedly took out a palm-sized jade slip from his bosom and handed it to Xiaohua, saying, Senior, Junior won't say anything else. This is the cultivation method of my Peacock Mountain Manor's 5-colored divine light. Junior sees that Senior's 6-colored spirit fire is very powerful. Perhaps you can use Junior's cultivation method to cultivate a 6-colored divine fire. If that's the case, then I'll be disrespectful. Xiaohua had long been drooling over the Peacock Manor's 5-colored divine light. Seeing Kong Chang like this, he didn't decline and took the jade slip to take a look. When he saw it, he exclaimed, What's wrong? This is also a Stygian immortal bamboo slip? This five-colored divine light is also an immortal technique? Hee hee. Kong Chang smiled and said, the Yi clan is an immortal cultivator clan with a history, so is my Peacock Mountain Manor. Furthermore, didn't I tell you earlier that I would report to you alone? Junior has actually been to the 10,000 demon realm before. Oh? You've been there too? Xiaohua asked curiously. Yes. Kong Chang didn't hide and said, my Peacock Mountain Manor's descendants have the five-colored Peacock Demon clan's bloodline. Junior doesn't know how this bloodline came about, and there are no records of it in my ancestors. However, Junior knows that every 500,000 years, the bloodline of my Peacock Mountain Manor's descendants will undergo a transformation. At this time, the Peacock Mountain Manor's patriarch needs to go to the 10,000 demon realm and go to a place called the Heavenly Feathers Sacred World to undergo a trial. When Junior took over the Peacock Mountain Manor, it happened to be 500,000 years of bloodline transformation. Junior had just cultivated to the Dao integration stage, and immediately went to the 10,000 demon realm according to the records of my ancestors. To be honest, the space passage from the Yi-Lin continent to the 10,000 demon realm is actually in the Heaven Wind Forbidden area. Junior also encountered the Tai Wei green light when crossing over that year. Heavenly Feathers Sacred World. Xiaohua frowned slightly. He clearly remembered that Dai had mentioned the Heavenly Feathers Sacred World in the 10,000 demon realm, and even said that Xian Wan gave her a token, the Heavenly Pure Feather. However, when Xiaohua was in the 10,000 demon realm, he was worried about the three continents and came and went in a hurry. He only met the Phoenix clan's Feather Wind King once and never inquired about it. He had never been to the Heavenly Feather Sacred World, so he didn't know where the Heavenly Feather Sacred World was. Kong Chang slightly revealed some of the secrets of the Peacock Mountain Manor. Looking at Xiaohua's expression, he smiled and said, Senior, do you know about this Heavenly Feathers Sacred World? I've heard of it, but I've never been there. Xiaohua replied without hiding anything. Junior only knows that place is called the Heavenly Feathers Sacred World, and Junior also knows the image of the 10,000 demon realm. I come and go according to the records of my ancestors, and I dare not make any mistakes. Kong Chang said again. So Junior is not as clear as Senior about the other situations of the 10,000 demon realm. Does fellow cultivator have plans to move the Peacock Mountain Manor to the 10,000 demon realm? Xiaohua asked. After all, your Peacock Mountain Manor has a route to the 10,000 demon realm and a safe Heavenly Feather Sacred World. No. Kong Chang shook his head. The space passage is too dangerous, only Dao integration cultivators can pass through, and the Heavenly Feathers Sacred World in the 10,000 demon realm is not a good place. Junior does not have such plans. After saying this, Kong Chang smiled and said, Junior's experience in the 10,000 demon realm was used on the array of the Peacock Mountain Manor, so this metal and wood magnetism is extremely important to Junior and my Peacock Mountain Manor. It's just that Junior never thought that the metal and wood magnetism in Senior's hands would be so big. With this item, my Peacock Mountain Manor would not be afraid of bloodline transformation for 1,000,000 years. So, I asked Senior to spend some time to send this metal and wood magnetism to the Peacock Mountain Manor. Can't you take it away yourself? Xiaohua frowned slightly. This. Kong Chang hesitated and said, then Junior will try. Senior can send the metal and wood magnetism out of the magic tool? Okay. Xiaohua nodded and waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand. Hong. The space trembled and huge metal and wood elemental magnets immediately fell into the air. The white and green elemental magnets immediately enveloped the surrounding space. The 5 elemental magnets and the spiritual energy of the 5 elements immediately underwent a huge change. Hurricanes crazily blew up and dark clouds rolled in the sky, giving birth to a strange phenomenon. What was even more special was that within the magnets, faint dragon patterns flowed. When they gathered together, a dragon was actually born and proudly roared towards the sky. Seeing such a vision, Kong Chang originally released the peacock's celestial body, but just as the 5-colored divine light was released, he dejectedly put it away. He cried out in ecstasy, Senior, quickly put it away. Junior doesn't have the strength to put away this metal and wood magnetism for the time being. Oh, that's true. Seeing this, Xiaohua felt guilty and hurriedly put away the metal and wood magnetism. He said embarrassedly, I forgot, fellow Taoist has used too much five-colored divine light before, how can you put it away now? Let's go, I will send this item to the Peacock Mountain Manor. Thank you, Senior. Kong Chang was happy and wanted to fly away, but Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Fellow Taoist, give me the location of the Peacock Mountain Manor and the map of the Yilin continent. Kong Chang was puzzled, and he asked curiously, Senior, if we teleport there will be a transmission array about 400,000 li ahead. How long will it take to use the transmission array? Xiaohua woke up, knowing that there were too many transmission arrays in the Yilin continent, and this aspect was urgent. About 10 days. Kong Chang smiled and said, during this time, there are still places where we need to teleport, not all of them are transmission arrays. You better give me the map. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and said, it's better for me to go there earlier. After Kong Chang took out the jade slip and gave the location of the Peacock Mountain Manor to Xiaohua, he asked puzzledly, Senior, are you going to use the continent transmission bridge? Xiaohua's divine sense entered the jade slip, looked at it, and answered casually. Suddenly, he thought of something and smiled. Do you have records of the Yilin continent's common Dao techniques like the continent transmission bridge? Oh yes. Kong Chang woke up and hurriedly took out a large pile of jade slips and handed them to Xiaohua, saying, Junior has some here. When Senior arrives at the Peacock Mountain Manor, Junior will ask the disciples to send it to you. The Dao techniques of the Lost Land have all been lost. Junior will help Senior. Great. Xiaohua laughed loudly and kept the jade slip. He raised his hand and drew a line in the air. Rip. A crack appeared in the air, and Xiaohua waved his robe and said, I will bring you back to the Peacock Mountain Manor, but in the space tunnel, do not use your magic power. This is a space escape technique? Kong Chang looked at the crack in the air, surprised and happy. There is really such a technique in this world. As Kong Chang said this, Xiaohua's figure flashed, and he brought Kong Chang into the crack, disappearing. Yi Zhen had been waiting in the Heaven Wind Forbidden Zone for half a day, but he was not in a hurry at all. First, he urged his figure to fly closer, and looked at the eruption of the spatial storm with interest. Finally, he found a place to sit down cross-legged. When Xiaohua flew over from afar, he smiled, stood up, and said loudly, Senior, have you arranged everything in the Peacock Mountain Manor? It has been arranged. Xiaohua's expression did not change, but he felt a little embarrassed. Although his space escape technique was peerless, his sense of direction was probably unmatched. After getting close to the Peacock Mountain Manor with great difficulty, Elder Peacock suggested teleportation. Even after Xiaohua sent the metal and wood elemental magnetism to the Peacock Mountain Manor and took away the essence blood, Elder Peacock insisted on sending Xiaohua back to the Heaven Wind Forbidden Zone. Fortunately, before Xiaohua left, he had left a divine sense mark near the Heaven Wind Forbidden Zone, so he did not need to use the space escape technique to return. He only needed to use the opposite direction technique, so Xiaohua rejected Kong Chang's offer to send him back, and easily rushed back to the Heaven Wind Forbidden Zone. That's good. Yi Zhen did not ask much and said, then Junior can tell Senior some secrets in detail. Xiaohua looked at Yi Zhen with a strange expression and said, I was born in the Lost Land, and I really did not understand the inheritance of Taoism. It was not until I met you that I understood. Cultivation sects look very impressive, but in terms of foundation, I'm afraid you are not even worthy of carrying the shoes of immortal cultivation families. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and Chapter 5003. Senior, you're wrong. Yi Zhen laughed. Senior, you've only seen one side of the Yilin continent. What about the other realms? The other cultivation realms? Generally speaking, immortal cultivation sects are still much stronger than immortal cultivation families. There are other realms. Xiaohua asked, based on what your Yi clan knows, other than the 10,000 demon realm and the dark spirit realm, what other realms are there? What other cultivation realms are there? Senior, can you set up a barrier? Yi Zhen did not answer, but suggested, "What I'm about to say involves the secrets of my Yi clan." Xiaohua nodded and set up the barrier, saying, "Go ahead. I guarantee that no one on the Yilin continent can hear you." "Senior, what other realms are there that I don't know?" Yi Zhen answered honestly, "These are all recorded in my Jiang clan's messages from the Immortal realm." Immortal realm? Jiang clan? Xiaohua was shocked. He finally realized what Yi Zhen had said earlier. The Yi clan is not the Yi clan that you're talking about. "Yes, senior." Yi Zhen said respectfully, "My Yi clan surname is not Yi, but Jiang. In order to avoid the eyes and ears of some families in the Immortal realm, we changed our surname to Yi." "Other families in the Immortal realm?" Xiaohua felt even more strange and could not help but ask, "Wen clan? Shen clan?" Yi Zhen's body shook, as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and asked curiously, Could it be that Senior has already met them?" Xiaohua smiled. "Isn't there a Purple Chin Immortal Alliance in the Dao Alliance? Isn't the Wen clan in the Water Cloud country there?" Senior is wrong." Yi Zhen shook his head. "That Wen clan is different from the Wen clan that I'm talking about. I might as well explain it to you. The Wen clan in Water Cloud country is actually the Mei clan. They're the same as my Jiang clan, not using their real names. They think that only they know, but what they don't know is that my Jiang clan already knew." Xiaohua nodded and said, "I don't know the relationship between your Jiang clan, the Wen clan, and the Shen clan, but I won't hide it from you. I've only heard of these two names from other places, but I've never really met them." "Phew." Yi Zhen let out a long sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Junior knew it. How could they dare to come to the secular world so brazenly? Even the Jiang clan and the Mei clan have changed their names. What the hell is going on?" Xiaohua had already vaguely realized something, but he still frowned and asked. Yi Zhen said with a smile, "Senior, there are some things, it's better if this junior doesn't say it so thoroughly. Actually, I don't know much myself. I only know that the ancestral teachings of my Jiang family say that if you meet a tribulation transcendence or Dao integration cultivator who is benevolent and compassionate, you must invite him to visit Yen Hanshan after he ascends to the immortal world." Xiaohua pinched his chin and said, "Old man Gu Qiong seems to meet your requirements. Does he know about Yen Hanshan?" Yi Zhen shook his head. "He doesn't know. Although Senior thinks that fellow Taoist Gu Qiong meets the requirements, I don't think he's suitable. To tell you the truth, the name of this place has not been mentioned by the Jiang clan for nearly 400,000 years. When I saw the spiritual root selection method, I understood what you were thinking. I immediately thought of this matter, and I followed old man Gu Qiong to find you for this reason. Today, Senior even told me about the matters of the 3 continents. Junior feels that Junior must tell Senior about it. Whether you want to recruit me or rope me in, I don't want you to lose any opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" Xiaohua asked thoughtfully. Yi Zhen shrugged and shook his head. "I don't know, but I think that since you are a rogue cultivator, you might as well find someone to rely on when you reach the immortal world. Of course, if you don't want to, just pretend that I didn't say anything." "Well, I can think about it," Xiaohua said with a smile. "From what happened today, it seems that it's better to gather firewood together. It's good that you can think about it." Yi Zhen was very happy and said, "Then I'll discuss another matter with you." "Oh, there's another thing?" Xiaohua felt strange, but he waved his hand and said, "Before that, can you tell me what kind of families the Wen clan, Mei clan, and Shen clan are? How are they related to the Jiang clan?" Yi Zhen hesitated slightly and replied, "Generally speaking, the Wen clan, Mei clan, and Shen clan are all families in the immortal world, just like the Jiang clan. It seems that they are in different celestial realms. However, I don't know which celestial realms they are in, because there has been no news from the immortal world for a long time. As for their relationship, it seems that they are not on good terms, but I don't dare to ask about the details." Seeing that Yi Zhen seemed to have some unspeakable troubles, Xiaohua didn't force him. He already knew that the Wen clan and the Jiang clan didn't have a good relationship. If he encountered the Wen clan in the immortal world, he could go to the Jiang clan. Xiaohua didn't ask in vain for this benefit, so he smiled and said, "In that case, I won't ask any more. What else do you want to discuss with me?" Yizhen immediately relaxed and replied, "This matter is a piece of cake for you, senior. I would like to ask you to take care of the descendants of the Yi clan when you arrive at the lost place." Xiaohua was stunned and suddenly understood. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Damn it, I understand now. The Yi clan of the Dawn Rain continent. Could it be that the descendants of the Yi clan were sent to the lost place? Senior has seen the descendants of the Yi clan in the lost place?" Yi Zhen's heart tightened for no reason, and he said anxiously, "They didn't offend you, right?" "Haha, they definitely offended you," Xiaohua replied with a smile. "Damn it." Yi Zhen cursed in a low voice and said, "I don't dare to ask for your forgiveness as long as you don't." At this point, Yi Zhen did not know how to continue. Did he want to implicate himself? Don't implicate the other descendants of the Yi clan? "Fellow Taoist Yi, don't worry about it." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "It's just that someone has a grudge against me, and one of my sworn brothers seems to be related to the Yi clan. So, fellow Taoist, don't worry, as long as the Yi clan doesn't do evil in the lost place, I won't interfere." Xiaohua paused for a moment and said, "I will leave my orthodoxy in the lost place, and the name is the Fortune Gate. If fellow Taoist ye can send me a message, I will explain everything." Xiaohua came to a realization and asked, "Fellow Taoist Yi, how did the descendants of the Yi clan pass through the Wuming mountain range? Could it be that you left it until the end?" Looking at Xiaohua's expectant gaze, Yizhen replied embarrassedly, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you, senior. My Yi clan did not pass through the Wuming mountain range's special technique, and we also used the transmission tunnel to pass through. However, senior should have seen that my Yi clan has the ability to maintain space, so we have more chances to reach the lost place." "I understand." Xiaohua smiled and cupped his hands. "I accept the Jiang clan's good intentions." Hearing Xiaohua mention the Jiang clan, Yizhen's heart calmed down. He then took out a jade scepter-like token and handed it over to Xiaohua. He said, "Since senior has ascended to the immortal world, junior does not have any token to give you. However, when senior returns to the lost place, senior can take this token and command all the disciples of my Yi clan in the lost place." Xiaohua frowned slightly and did not take the jade scepter. He was clear that authority and responsibility were equal. Since he had the authority to command the disciples of the Yi clan, he naturally had to bear some responsibility. The Fortune Gate in his hands was 100 times more powerful than the Yi clan. Why would he find trouble for himself for no reason? "Senior." Yizhen seemed to have seen through Xiaohua's thoughts and said with a smile, "This token can not only command all the disciples of the Yi clan in the lost place, it can also prove senior's identity. Without this token, junior would not be able to send a message to them. Wouldn't senior have to waste his breath to explain? Moreover, with this token, senior can punish my Yi clan's traitors. Wouldn't it be reasonable and reasonable? You have a good plan." Xiaohua accepted the token with a smile and said, "Since this Xiao has received benefits from you, I will be a Yi clan elder." "Many thanks, senior, many thanks, senior." Yizhen was overjoyed when he saw Xiaohua accept the token. He bowed and said, "Senior's action has solved my Yi clan's many years of troubles. The Yi clan in the lost place has been separated from my Yi clan for a long time. This junior does not know how they are doing in the lost place. If they forget the ancestral teachings and harm the lost place, then my Yi clan will have committed a great sin." "Haha," Xiaohua laughed heartily, "don't worry, if they harm the lost place, not to mention this Xiao has your Yi clan's token, even if this Xiao does not, this Xiao will still punish them. Then I will have to trouble senior." Yizhen took out a jade slip and handed it to Xiaohua. He said, "This is the information my Yi clan obtained about the transmission tunnel in the Wuming mountain range. However, it is too old, so I don't know if it can be used now." Xiaohua took the jade slip and looked at it before replying, "It's already good enough that you have it. If this Xiao had not tactfully agreed, I'm afraid this jade slip would not even exist." "Hee, senior, you think too much." Yizhen smiled and said, "This junior has already prepared this long ago. I will definitely give it to senior." Xiaohua kept the jade slip and looked at the interface storm that had calmed down. He asked, "Is there anything else, fellow Taoist Ji?" Yi Zhen bowed and said, "This junior also wishes senior to successfully pass through the Wuming mountain range, break the immortal array, and save the billions of lives in the 3 continents. By the way, your Yi clan doesn't have any records of the immortal array?" Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, and he asked again. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and... Chapter 5004. Unfortunately, Yi Zhen still shook his head and said embarrassedly, "Junior really doesn't know. However, since Senior mentioned this matter, Junior will go back and look for it." "All right, then I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist." Xiaohua returned the greeting and opened the barrier. "Junior will take his leave." Yi Zhen took his leave. After Yi Zhen flew far away, Xiaohua looked at the jade scepter in his hand, shook his head slightly, and put it into the space. Then he released his divine sense to check the surroundings. His figure flickered and landed in the direction of the forbidden land of Heaven Wind. After flying for a while, he waved his hands again, and a void crack appeared. His figure disappeared into it. Xiaohua had left a divine sense mark at the maze array used by the failure Immortal Union, so it was easy for him to return to the maze array. However, when Xiaohua returned to the bewildering array, he was a little surprised, because the bewildering array wasn't as strict as it was before. Instead, many places had collapsed, and the leaking spatial storms had already destroyed the remnants of the bewildering array. It was a complete mess. Several Fortune Gate disciples were sitting cross-legged in the ruins, meditating. Xiaohua's appearance did not attract their attention. Xiaohua landed in midair and released his divine sense. The moment he released his divine sense, the disciples were jolted awake. When they saw Xiaohua, they hastily stood up and saluted, not daring to speak. Xiaohua looked at them and understood. When Long Shenxi had just fallen into the devil path, his dragon blood avatar had already attracted his attention. Later on, Long Shenxi's descent had deepened, and the spatial turbulence had also reached the heavens. Not to mention, the spatial turbulence had been suppressed several times and erupted several times. The entire heavenly wind forbidden land was affected by the spatial turbulence. Since the maze array was inside the forbidden land, it was normal for it to be destroyed by the spatial turbulence. What happened? Xiaohua asked. One of the older Fortune Gate disciples told him what had happened, and it was similar to what Xiaohua had thought. Xiaohua frowned and asked, "How are the casualties among the cultivators who came in?" "The casualties are quite heavy. Disciples have saved a lot of people, but the spatial turbulence was too strong. Disciples can't even take care of themselves." Several disciples whispered, afraid that Xiaohua would blame them. Xiaohua nodded and said, "You all did well. My Fortune Gate's teachings were not in vain. Remember, helping others is necessary, but protecting yourself is more important. Don't risk your life for others, if you can avoid it." "Yes, we understand." The Fortune Gate disciples breathed a sigh of relief. 2 of them reached into their sleeves and took out 2 tranquil wind wheels, respectfully handing them to Xiaohua. "Disciples are incompetent, we could only take 2. "Ha, I only need 1. Xiaohua laughed heartily. He took the netherwind wheels and examined them carefully. He saw that they were 2 damaged magical artifacts. They looked like wheels, and inside, there were 5 axles of different colors intertwined. The outer layer of the wheels was a ring made of flocculating material, and there were also damaged runes on it. Because the rune was already broken, some magic power fluctuations seeped out. These fluctuations fell into the air and gave rise to gusts of cool wind. After Xiaohua finished looking at them, he put the 2 tranquil wind wheels into a universe ring. He took out 2 rejuvenation pills and gave them to the 2 disciples. Then, he took out some immortal peaches and spiritual wine, giving each disciple a portion. Only then did he send the Fortune Gate disciples into the Shenhua continent. He left the maze formation and released his Buddhist sense to take a look. Then, he concealed himself and flew towards the entrance of the maze formation. At the entrance of the maze formation, Bai Fei was standing there, calm and unruffled. He smiled as he looked at the undulating hills on the ground and the barren rocks near the hills. His aura was firm and steady, Even the thousands of hurricanes wreaking havoc could not tear apart his confident gaze. Unlike Bai Fei's calmness, there were many bloody auras in the tornadoes from time to time. Occasionally, there were some nascent soul realm cultivators with bloodstains all over their bodies. They either looked nervous and panicked, or they carefully passed by with smiles on their faces. However, every time their gazes fell on Bai Fei, there was a trace of envy in their eyes. Swoosh! Within the tornadoes, a figure suddenly rushed out from the hills. Bai Fei looked over and saw that it was Zhuang Chen. At this time, Zhuang Chen's clothes were a little tattered, and there was an ancient green luster in the damaged areas. Zhuang Chen looked a little nervous, but when he saw Bai Fei standing there, his nervousness disappeared. He hurriedly asked, "Fellow Taoist Bai, how many days are left until the end of the selection?" Fellow Taoist Zhuang, don't be anxious. It's only been about 20 days. There's still a long time before the selection ends," Bai Fei said with a smile. He then asked, "Did fellow Taoist Zhuang find anything?" Of course. Zhuang Chen's face was still simple and honest, and he answered without hiding anything, "If I couldn't find anything, how could I come out so late? What about fellow Taoist Bai?" At this point, Zhuang Chen came to his senses and hurriedly said with a smile, I said too much. If I can get it, you can naturally get it too. Fellow Taoist Zhuang, you're a little talkative today, Bai Fei said meaningfully. Zhuang Chen was stunned and grinned. Of course I'm happy that I can pass the selection. After saying that, he continued to talk. As he wondered if he had done something wrong and was discovered by Bai Fei, he moved his body and stood beside Bai Fei. Fellow Taoist Zhuang. Bai Fei waited for a while and saw that no one else came out. He asked, "How many dark wind wheels did you get?" "How many?" Zhuang Chen was stunned and asked curiously, "One? What's wrong?" "Nothing." When Bai Fei heard that, he changed his eager gaze to indifference and moved away from Zhuang Chen. After more than 2 hours, there was a loud buzz and a green light rushed out from the hill not far away. The sound of the light was not soft, but the light was a little dim. Beauty Yu staggered out of the light. She did not even look and was about to fly into the distance. "Fellow Taoist." Bai Fei saw this and hurriedly shouted, "I'm waiting here." Beauty Yu was obviously a little surprised. She turned to look at Bai Fei and then at Zhuang Chen. She was a little hesitant, as if she was hesitating whether to come over or not. "Fairy Yu." Zhuang Chen also shouted, "Come over quickly, we're waiting for you." Bai Fei naturally understood Beauty Yu's thoughts and said with a smile, "Fairy, don't worry. We've all gotten the dark wind wheels, so we won't snatch them from you." Phew! Beauty Yu heaved a sigh of relief and flew over. However, she stopped when she was near and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Bai, fellow Taoist Zhuang, can you let me see your dark wind wheels?" "Of course." Bai Fei raised his hand and took out a dark wind wheel from the cosmic bracelet and said, "Fairy, can you rest assured now?" Zhuang Chen also hurriedly took it out. Seeing this, Beauty Yu finally flew over and said with a bitter smile, "Fellow Taoists, please don't blame me. I managed to get a dark wind wheel in the maze and happened to encounter the collapse of the maze. When I came out of the ruins, I met 2 people, nascent soul cultivators. They wanted to kill me without saying anything. I had no choice but to flee in panic. Fortunately, the maze collapsed and the storm became stronger. I didn't care about my life anymore and fled into the depths of the maze. Only then did I manage to get rid of the 2 of them. Damn it." Bai Fei narrowed his eyes and cursed in a low voice, "Fairy, do you still remember their appearance?" Of course. Although Beauty Yu's appearance was covered by a silk scarf, her tone was obviously surprised. She replied, "How can I forget these 2 damn things?" "All right," Bai Fei said, "after fellow Taoist Yuan Kong comes out, we'll work together to deal with them." "Taoist Yuan Kong?" Beauty Yu sneered and looked at Zhuang Chen, who was not far away. She said, "Why don't you ask fellow Taoist Zhuang what Taoist Yuan Kong did first? What's wrong with fellow Taoist Yuan Kong?" Bai Fei turned his head and asked Zhuang Chen. "Nothing." Zhuang Chen said curiously, "After we separated from fellow Taoist Bai, we found a few more forks. However, when there was only 1 cave entrance, 3 more nascent soul cultivators came. They insisted that they found this cave entrance first. Taoist Yuan Kong argued for a while and then took us to find another fork. He gave the cave entrance to the three of them for free. Beauty Yu sneered. He even said that it was for our own good, Zhuang Chen said straightforwardly. Among the three nascent soul cultivators, two of them were middle-stage nascent soul. All right. Beauty Yu curled her lips and looked at Zhuang Chen. Then she said, let's forget about this matter. What happened next? What about before the maze collapsed? When we met the two forks that he was hesitant about, I told him clearly. Why didn't he listen? He even spoke ill of me. Zhuang Chen said with a smile. Fellow Taoist Yuan Kong had already used a secret technique and knew that there was movement in that fork. Fairy, you insisted on going to the other one. You can't blame fellow Taoist Yuan Kong, right? Beauty Yu sneered and said, I got the Netherwind wheel in that fork. What about you guys? Zhuang Chen was still honest and answered, there was nothing in that fork and we met two forks. Fellow Taoist Yuan Kong couldn't choose, so we separated. You got the Netherwind wheel. What about him? He definitely won't be able to get it. Beauty Yu said disdainfully, his luck is bad, but he still wants to fight for fame and fortune. It's just a selection, and he still wants to be the leader. This kind of person, without waiting for Beauty Yu to finish speaking, Bai Fei suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked in a direction. He asked curiously, why did Taoist Xiao come out from there? When Beauty Yu heard this, she hurriedly shut her mouth and looked in the direction of the hurricane. Sure enough, Xiaohua looked back 3 times with every step. He looked left and right as if he was lost and flew from afar. It seemed that he didn't notice them. This Taoist Xiao is also a strange thing. Beauty Yu sneered and muttered in her heart, he doesn't even know the direction, but he actually wants to go to the lost land. What's wrong with me this time? I keep encountering strange humans. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, save it, reward it. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5005. Thinking about this, Beauty Yu looked at Zhuang Chen again. She had already discovered that Zhuang Chen was a little strange, but she had not discovered why. In short, Beauty Yu felt that whether it was Taoist Master Yuan Kong, Zhuang Chen, Bai Fei, or Xiaohua, they were all very strange. They were different from the ordinary human cultivators she had seen. Taoist Master Xiao? Bai Fei called out with a smile, I'm waiting here. Hearing this, Xiaohua hurriedly looked over. After flying for a while, he saw Bai Fei and the others. He let out a long sigh and said, I finally found you. Hee. Bai Fei looked at Xiaohua's neat Taoist robe and said with a smile, so Taoist Master Xiao is a hidden great expert. We were all in a sorry state and were almost buried underground by the collapse of the maze. Taoist Master Xiao, you didn't even lose a single hair. What? The maze collapsed? Hearing this, Xiaohua was shocked. He looked at Bai Fei and the others in disbelief, then looked down at the ground in the fierce wind and asked curiously, why didn't I know? How is that possible? Beauty Yu was curious about Xiaohua to begin with. At this moment, she was even more puzzled and asked, we were almost trapped by the collapse of the maze. How could you not know? Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, I indeed didn't know that the maze collapsed. Because after I parted with Taoist Bai, I entered another fork in the road. There were many forks in the road, and not long after, I got lost. Even if I wanted to go back to find Taoist Bai, I couldn't. I might as well fly around randomly. Oh, I remember. There was a period of time when the entire maze was shaking and the ground was shaking. Maybe the maze collapsed? Ai's maze looked very complete and sturdy. It didn't collapse. Did you get the dark wind wheel? Bai Fei frowned slightly. He released the gold-devouring beetles to follow behind Xiaohua, so he naturally knew that Xiaohua's words were true. However, he was too lazy to listen to Xiaohua's explanation and asked, I got it. Xiaohua nodded and said, that place looked very quiet as if no one went there, so I got it very easily. Bai Fei's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, fellow Taoist Xiao is really lucky. When we encountered the collapse of the ground and the collapse of the bewildering formation, we all ran for our lives to escape. You, on the other hand, are looking around leisurely like you're taking a stroll in a courtyard. I wonder how many you've found? 2. Xiaohua didn't hide anything and said, no matter what, this Xiao went in with fellow Taoist Bai. If fellow Taoist Bai's luck isn't good, then this dark wind can be given to fellow Taoist Bai. Flatterer. Beauty, you couldn't help but snort coldly and say, you're still a headless flatterer. Fellow Taoist Bai has already obtained it. Hee. Bai Fei smiled and said, Spiritual Master Xiao, this Bai wants the other Feng Yulun. What benefits do you want? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He really didn't know why Bai Fei kept talking about benefits every day. He was about to speak. So, below them, a sword light shot out. This sword light looked extremely weak, and as soon as it entered the storm, it was blown to smithereens. Then, Taoist Yuan Kong's extremely wretched figure charged out from the sword light. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong's robe was torn, and there was no need to talk about his body's protective light being scattered. There was also no need to talk about his exposed arm being badly mutilated. Just by looking at the large amount of dust on his head that he didn't have time to clean up, one could see how much danger he encountered in the bewildering formation. Senior Yuan Kong. Zhuang Chun saw Spiritual Master Yuan Kong and was especially affectionate. He hurriedly called out, "We're here." Spiritual Master Yuan Kong saw that Bai Fei and the others were standing in the air safe and sound. He was clearly surprised. He hurriedly circulated his magic power, and light flashed around his body as he cleaned up the dust. He took another pill and adjusted his breathing before flying over with a smile on his face. Not bad, you all actually came out of the bewildering formation safely. This old man is very happy. Aye, that's right. Bai Fei went over and sighed. The heavenly Tao is unpredictable. I originally thought that this was the edge of the heaven wind forbidden area and that there wouldn't be too big of a change. Who would have thought that we would still encounter danger? To be able to come back safely is already very lucky. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong nodded in agreement. He looked around and asked, how many days until the selection ends? Bai Fei said, if this Bai remembers correctly, there should still be 7 days. 7 days. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong nodded thoughtfully and said, that's good, we still have a chance. The bewildering formation here has already collapsed, so we can enter from another place. Don't worry, this old man will definitely help you all obtain the Netherwind Wheel. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong waved his hand and said, come, follow this old man. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong flew for a few breaths and didn't see Bai Fei and the others following him. He couldn't help but stop and call out, it's just a bewildering formation collapsing, and you're already scared out of your wits? This. Zhuang Chen hesitated. Seeing that the others didn't speak, he could only say himself, Senior, we have already obtained the Netherwind Wheel. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong was surprised and a faint blush appeared on his wrinkled face. Beauty, you said faintly, we have already obtained it. Spiritual Master Xiao even picked up too? Very good, very good. Spiritual Master Yuan Kong heard this and laughed in jealousy. He flew in front of Xiaohua and said, Spiritual Master Xiao, is your extra Netherwind Wheel useful? If it's useless, this old man will exchange it with the storage ring of the Immortal Alliance. As he spoke, Taoist Yuan Kong placed the storage ring in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked at the storage ring and then looked at Spiritual Master Yuan Kong's eager gaze and the wrinkles on his face. He felt sympathy in his heart. He wanted to give the Netherwind Wheel to Spiritual Master Yuan Kong and fulfill his wish. However, he also understood that with Bai Fei, Beauty Yu, and Zhuang Chun following him to the Lost Land, this nascent soul human cultivator would definitely be played to death by the 3 of them. Moreover, even old man Gu Qiong didn't dare to rashly try to pass through the teleportation tunnel through the Wuming mountain range. Xiaohua really couldn't understand why this nascent soul cultivator wanted to die. If he gave the Netherwind Wheel to him, wouldn't it be the same as letting him die? Spiritual Master Yuan Kong. Thinking of this, Xiaohua said resolutely, the Lost Land sounds like a paradise, but in reality, don't you think it's not worth it for us to take such a risk? In the Yi-Lin continent, there are cultivation methods and medicinal pills. You can have whatever you want. Why must we go to the Lost Land? Moreover, I heard that passing through the teleportation tunnel is extremely dangerous. Obtaining the Netherwind will only means that we have the ability to pass through the teleportation tunnel. It doesn't mean that we can definitely pass through safely. Since fellow Taoist can't obtain the Netherwind wheel, it means that you have no fate with the Lost Land. Frankly speaking, fellow Taoist doesn't have the ability to pass through the teleportation tunnel. I gave you the Netherwind wheel. Although you have obtained the right to choose, in reality, won't you be giving fellow Taoists life in vain? Honest words were always unpleasant to the ear. Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish, Spiritual Master Yuankong's face turned red and he roared, "Damn it! If you think this storage ring is too little, just say it directly. You are greedy and yet you say this old man is useless. You middle-stage nascent soul cultivators can pass through the teleportation tunnel. This old man is already close to late-stage nascent soul. How can this old man not pass through? You're really angering this old man to death." Zhuang Chun lowered his head honestly and didn't say anything. Beauty Yu's face hidden under the silk scarf sneered and didn't say anything. Xiaohua looked on indifferently. The sympathy in his heart gradually disappeared. In this world, there were always some people who felt that they were omnipotent and omniscient. However, these people were just pitiful worms who thought they were extraordinary. Perhaps pitiful people must have something hateful? Say it. What price do you want to give this Netherwind wheel to this old man? After Spiritual Master Yuankong roared, he gnashed his teeth and looked at Xiaohua with a somewhat sinister expression. Xiaohua shook his head slightly and didn't answer. Senior. Bai Fei hurriedly flew over and said with a smile, "Senior, don't be angry. Senior, don't take fellow Taoist Zhao's words to heart. With your strength, wouldn't it be easy for you to obtain the Netherwind wheel from the bewildering array? Back then, wasn't it because of Senior's secret technique that we found the entrance to the bewildering array?" Spiritual Master Yuankong snorted coldly and shifted his somewhat resentful gaze away from Xiaohua. He looked at Bai Fei and said, "How can this old man lower himself to his level? That is, if you wait at the side. Bai Fei hurriedly stopped Spiritual Master Yuankong's malicious words and said in a low voice, "Actually, this Bai will also tell fellow Taoists the truth. This Bai didn't obtain the Netherwind wheel. Just now, this Bai already told Spiritual Master Xiao about this matter. He was too embarrassed to reveal this Bai's matter. Oh, so that's how it is." Spiritual Master Yuankong believed him and the anger on his face subsided. However, he still said, "Even so, this guy shouldn't speak to this old man like that. Who does he think he is?" Yes, this Bai apologizes to Senior on his behalf." Bai Fei said with a smile, "Senior is magnanimous. Please don't lower yourself to our level. Oh, of course, if Senior doesn't want to go into the bewildering array again, this Bai will immediately give the Netherwind wheel to Senior after obtaining it." However, at this point, Bai Fei lowered his head to look at the trembling of the storm and bitterly smiled. This Bai has already been scared out of his wits by the collapse of the bewildering array. I'm afraid that only an expert with such profound cultivation like Senior would have the guts to enter the tiger's den again, right? Isn't it just a bewildering array? Since this old man can come out, naturally I can go in again. Spiritual Master Yuankong was emboldened by Bai Fei's words. He proudly said, "You all wait here for a while. This old man will be back soon." But, Bai Fei hurriedly said, "Senior, we all have injuries on our bodies. It's hard for us to stay in this hurricane for long. Senior, please see if we can leave first. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank all forms of support." Chapter 5006. N. Return to the Special Envoy's flying ship for now. Spiritual Master Yuankong's face was full of disdain, and even had a reprimanding tone as he said, "If you can't even withstand this kind of storm, when you reach the Lost Land, you won't be able to accomplish anything." How can we accomplish anything?" Bai Fei smiled and said, "Don't we still have to follow Senior's command to have some gains?" "It's good that you understand." Spiritual Master Yuankong said, and sword light surged around him as he flew into the distance. Xiaohua opened his mouth, but closed it again. At this time, most of the maze had already collapsed, and there were no more entrances. With spiritual master Yuan Kong's cultivation, he probably couldn't even find the entrance. If he hit a wall, he would leave without any face. Spiritual Master Xiao. Bai Fei turned and said, "Actually, you don't have to say these words to Yuan Kong. You just have to say what you just said." Bai Fei didn't transmit his words, and Xiao Hua, Zhuang Chen, and Beauty Yu all heard it. Xiao Hua naturally understood what he was saying, and he smiled and said, "I don't want to lie to him. Fellow Taoist is ignorant." Bai Fei smiled and said, "Lying to him is saving him. Unfortunately, he doesn't understand." Xiao Hua threw a wind underworld wheel to Bai Fei and asked curiously, "Could it be that you really didn't get the wind underworld wheel? What do you think?" Bai Fei took the wind underworld wheel, shrugged, and said to Xiao Hua and the rest, "Let's go, there's no need to wait for Yuan Kong. He won't return to the special envoy's flying ship." "No way." Zhuang Chen panicked and shouted, "Fellow Taoist, Yuan Kong won't die in the maze, right? The maze has already collapsed. Where can he find the wind underworld wheel?" Beauty Yu whispered, "He didn't even get the wind underworld wheel as an old senior. How can he have the face to come back? Besides, if he didn't get the wind underworld wheel, he didn't pass the selection. Why would he return to the special envoy's flying ship?" "Oh, I understand." Zhuang Chen scratched his head, and Xiaohua looked at a demon so pretentious, Xiaohua really despised him. Bai Fei brought Xiaohua and the others back to the envoy's flying ship. They saw the huge envoy's flying ship standing tall in the violent hurricane. However, the light protecting the flying ship was distorted by the hurricane. It was like the clothes placed on a drying pole in the secular world being blown up high. At this time, the disciples of the Immortal Alliance who were patrolling around the envoy's flying boat had already hidden outside the defensive light shield. No one was flying around anymore. Seeing that the special envoy's flying ship was approaching, Bai Fei stopped and said with a smile, "You all go ahead first. This Bai still has some personal matters to attend to and will return immediately." "All right." When Xiao Hua and the others heard this, how could they not know that Bai Fei's matter was related to the extra wind underworld wheel? They glanced at each other and flew towards the special envoy's flying ship. Seeing that someone was flying back, the special envoy's flying ship's defensive brilliance opened, and several disciples revealed themselves. After inspecting Xiao Hua and the others, Feng Yoluan let them in. Seeing Xiao Hua and the others enter the special envoy's flying ship, Bai Fei's figure flashed and flew to the tail of the special envoy's flying ship. When the distance was suitable, he took out a thumb-sized jade bracelet from his arms. Under the urging of his spiritual power, the bracelet rushed into the hurricane and fell into the special envoy's flying ship's defensive light shield and disappeared. After about a meal's worth of cultivation, Yiyun held a protective magic weapon and carefully flew out. When she saw Bai Fei standing there, her eyes were filled with tenderness. She hurriedly looked back as if she was afraid of being discovered. "Senior." Yiyun flew closer and asked in a low voice, "You? Why did you call this junior over?" "Nothing." Bai Fei smiled and said, "It's just that I haven't seen you for a few days and wanted to see you." "Senior." Yiyun's face was red with embarrassment. She lowered her head and said, "It's already the end of the selection. Why did Senior not go to the maze to look for the wind underworld wheel and only think of this junior?" However, this junior heard that there was a huge change in the maze and many cultivators died in it. Seeing Senior standing here safely today, this junior's heart can be at ease. "Yun." Bai Fei suddenly approached and called out in a low voice. Yiyun was obviously caught off guard. She was shocked and hurriedly retreated. However, she only retreated a few feet before stopping. She flew forward 2 feet and lowered her head. Her neck was obviously red. There's no need for this Bai to talk about this Bai's background. This Bai will definitely go to the lost place. Bai Fei did not fly any closer, only leaning slightly against Yiyun as he spoke in a low voice. "However, on this Yilin mainland, there are people and matters that this Bai misses, so this Bai cannot leave in peace. Therefore, this spy has called you out today to give this item to you. Yi Yun's voice was as soft as a mosquito. Although she did not dare to raise her head, she still replied. This tranquil wind wheel is something that this spy obtained in the maze, and risked my life to obtain another one. Bai Fei handed the tranquil wind wheel to Yi Yun and said, "This spy is giving it to you, I hope you have a choice. Of course, this spy will be happy no matter what you choose. Remember what this spy said in the Wumeng Mountains. As long as you are safe, I will be at ease." Fei. Yi Yun looked at the wind underworld wheel and could not help but whisper, "You." Bai Fei placed the wind underworld wheel in Yi Yun's hand and hooked a finger on her palm. He said considerately, "You don't have to answer now. Think about it. Treat this wind underworld wheel as a memento of our meeting in this life." Yi Yun wanted to say something, but Bai Fei shook his head and urged, "Hurry up and go back. If you stay too long, someone will find out." "Okay." Yi Yun hurriedly put away the wind underworld wheel and bit her lips. Looking at Bai Fei's handsome face, she nodded and hurriedly left. Seeing that Yi Yun had entered the special envoy's flying boat, Bai Fei suddenly glanced in a certain direction and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His figure flashed and landed on the other side of the special envoy's flying boat. He checked Feng Yuluan and entered the flying boat. After a while, Jiu flew out of the place Bai Fei looked at with a puzzled expression. Xiao Hua, Zhuang Chen, and Beauty Yu flew back to the special envoy's flying ship. The disciple on guard inspected the wind underworld wheel and returned it to them. He also took out more than 10 storage rings and gave 5 to each of them. Zhuang Chen took the rings and scanned them with his divine sense. He immediately exclaimed, Why are there so many?" The disciple on guard's eyes also flashed with admiration and said with jealousy, "Senior and the others are really lucky." Originally, the special envoy was prepared to reward each senior with 2 rings after they succeeded. But later, the heavenly wind forbidden area changed and a rare storm appeared in the center. This storm blew the special envoy's flying ship over. Later, I heard that the maze collapsed and many seniors died inside. So, the special envoy ordered that those who can return will be rewarded with 5 storage rings. Moreover, after 30 days, the remaining storage rings will be equally distributed to the seniors who passed the selection. So that's how it is. We're rich. Zhuang Chen grinned and carefully put away the storage rings. Seniors, please follow this junior. The flying ship has prepared a quiet room for seniors. Seniors, please meditate inside. The disciple said respectfully, "Seniors must be tired, so this junior won't disturb you. When the selection time is up, the flying ship will fly back to the Defeat You Immortal Union on time." Moreover, the special envoy also said that if there are no other accidents, the flying ship will not stay in the Immortal Union and will directly fly to the Wuming Mountain Range. In addition, there is a secret technique to refine the wind underworld wheel in the storage rings. Seniors, please complete the refining of the wind underworld wheel during this period. The 3 disciples said and led the 3 people into the cabin. After opening the 3 quiet rooms, they bowed and saluted. Beauty Yu did not stay. She ignored the 2 and entered the quiet room alone. In a moment, restrictions appeared around the quiet room. Zhuang Chen walked 2 steps and felt that it was inappropriate. He stopped and turned to ask, "Daoist Xiao, do you think Daoist Yuan Kong will be in danger? What do you think?" Xiao Hua looked indifferently at this devil and asked. Zhuang Chen suddenly saw a trace of disdain in Xiao Hua's eyes. He panicked in his heart, knowing that he had painted a snake with legs, and said with a smile, "The old man is actually very good, I hope he can come back safely. Returning is better than leaving." Xiao Hua looked over and said, "If he comes back, won't he be played to death by you guys?" Daoist Xiao is joking. Zhuang Chen smiled and quickly entered the quiet room. Xiao Hua looked at the 2 quiet rooms created by restrictions and was too lazy to pry. He just stood quietly in front of his quiet room. Sure enough, after a while, Bai Fei also came over under the lead of a disciple. After that disciple saluted and left, Bai Fei looked at Xiao Hua with a smile and said, "I knew that you would be waiting for me here. Have you decided to bring her?" Xiao Hua said straightforwardly. Bai Fei naturally knew who Xiaohua was talking about and nodded. Xiaohua shook his head slightly and said, I don't think this is appropriate. First, her cultivation is not enough and she may not be able to pass through Wuming Mountain Range. Second, if you bring her, that person will definitely stop you. In this way, you and I may not be able to go. Bai Fei said disapprovingly, since Liu Immortal Alliance allows Jindan stage disciples to go, then she will definitely have a chance. Moreover, you can rest assured that there are not many cultivators who passed the selection this time. Liu Immortal Alliance will definitely send more disciples to go with us. If others can go, she can naturally go too. As for that person, you can rest assured. Since that person said that he will let go, then he will not interfere. This is her choice. Even if that person stops her, she will definitely go back. The matter between you and me cannot be delayed. Alright, I hope your guess is not wrong. Xiaohua sighed and compromised. I do not want to face a late nascent soul stage cultivator again. It is only late nascent soul stage, there is nothing to be afraid of. Bai Fei said and was about to turn around. Xiaohua suddenly called out to Bai Fei with a smile, Fellow Taoist Bai, are you going to leave now? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5007. Bai Fei was stunned and immediately understood. He smiled and took out 2 storage rings from his bosom and handed them to Xiaohua. He said, I didn't talk about any deal with you before, but since Yuan Kong gave you a storage ring as the price, I can't treat you unfairly. Hee, thank you. Xiaohua smiled as he received the storage ring and said, that netherwind wheel was merely picked up. This poor Taoist thought that fellow Taoist giving me 1 storage ring was already good enough. Since you insist on giving me 2, then this poor Taoist will be disrespectful. After Xiaohua finished speaking, he floated into the quiet room and activated the restriction of the room. With a smile on his face, Bai Fei shook his head slightly and then entered the quiet room. However, when he activated the restriction of the quiet room, the expression on his face changed instantly. He paced around the quiet room a few times and whispered, Xiao Yu, this Taoist Xiao is getting more and more strange, what do you think? Master? Xiao Yu's voice sounded faintly, you should be worried about that beauty Yu and Zhuang Chen, not this real human. Why? Have you changed your opinion? Bai Fei stopped and asked, do you think Taoist Xiao is a real human? Yes. Xiao Yu replied, compared to Beauty Yu's aura, I feel that Taoist Xiao is a human who has cultivated the demon race's cultivation method. Beauty Yu, interesting. Why does a demon race want to go to the Lost Land? Bai Fei rubbed his chin and asked in confusion. I don't know why she wants to go to the Lost Land, but I know that if Master doesn't deal with it carefully, he might fall into her trap. Little Master reminded, as for Taoist Xiao, Master has already made a decision, but he doesn't believe in his good luck. That's true. Bai Fei smiled and said, this guy is really bad at directions. He ran around in the maze without any order at all. My primordial spirit followed him and was about to get lost, so I had to call back the gold-devouring beetles. It's precisely this kind of person, fools have fool's luck. He got 2 transcendent wind wheels without any effort. It's meaningless for him to get 2 wind wheels. Xiao Yu complimented, it's just a big gift for Master. In the end, this luck still belongs to Master. I was just worrying about how to express my feelings to Yi Yun, and now he's offering the nether wind wheel. I wonder if he's lucky, or if I'm lucky. Bai Fei smiled proudly. However, he stopped after a while and asked, oh right, you said that Zhuang Chen might be a demon. How did you find out? Reporting to Master. Xiaoye replied, this Zhuang Chen's strength is very strong. Master is about the same as him. With my strength, I wouldn't be able to tell. However, when he escaped from the maze just now, he left behind a trace of the demon clan's aura. That was how I discovered it. Damn it. Bai Fei cursed in a low voice. A devil? What's he going to Daybreak Continent for? The Heavenly Devil sect has already turned the entire continent upside down. Wouldn't it be even more troublesome if a late nascent soul stage devil clan cultivator was added to the mix? Perhaps this demon is looking for the heavenly demon sect that Master mentioned? Xiaoye speculated. That's even better. Bai Fei rolled his eyes and said, let this demon find trouble with the heavenly demon sect. I'll just sit back and reap the benefits. Xiaoye suddenly said, but what if this demon is in cahoots with the heavenly demon sect? If that's the case, our Taoist Master Xiao will be useful. Bai Fei replied. Master's plan is flawless. Victory is in your grasp. I admire you. Xiaoye's voice sounded like she was truly convinced. The spiritual herbs in this world should have matured by now, right? Bai Fei suddenly asked again. Yes, Master. Xiaoye replied excitedly. Although there's no spiritual qi in this world, Master's spiritual liquid is too magical. That flying cloud fruit is at least 10,000 years old. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I definitely wouldn't have believed it. That's nothing. Bai Fei smiled slightly. Pick that flying cloud fruit. I'm going to refine the void cloud pill. Void cloud pill? Xiaoye was stunned and asked curiously, what void cloud pill is Master refining now? We're about to head to Wuming Mountain Range. At this point, Xiaoye suddenly understood something and said, so Master is doing this for ye, don't you think you're talking too much? Bai Fei said coldly. However, there was no change in his expression. Yes, I deserve to die, I deserve to die. Xiaoye's voice became lower and lower. Do your own thing. Don't talk too much. Bai Fei scolded. No one will think you're a fool if you don't talk. For a moment, the quiet room was as silent as night. After a while, Bai Fei raised his hand and took out a fist-sized elixir furnace from his storage ring. He opened his mouth and a cluster of true samadhi fire rushed out. Then, Bai Fei rubbed his hands and was about to start refining the elixir furnace. However, he changed his mind and pointed at the spirit storage ring. Several gold-devouring beetles flew out. Bai Fei chanted a mantra and attached a few strands of his primordial spirit to the gold-devouring beetles. Several gold-devouring beetles flapped their wings and rushed to the quiet room. Bai Fei activated his celestial artifact and released the gold-devouring beetles. When the gold-devouring beetles invaded the quiet room, Xiaohua was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. His eyelids twitched and he ignored them. After obtaining the water origin, he had obtained too many ultimacies and had no time to comprehend them. He wanted to cultivate in seclusion immediately, but he had to send old man Gu Qiong and the others away. On the contrary, the Thunderbolt Immortal, the Heavenly Being and the other doppelgangers, including the Demon Lord Shi, were slacking off and carefully comprehending the water origin ultimacy. They ignored Xiaohua and were cultivating. Since Xiaohua had returned to the quiet room, why would he care so much? His mind had already entered the starry sky of the heavenly Tao. Together with the heavenly Tao Xiaohua, he comprehended the ultimacy of heaven and earth bit by bit. When the 6 origins fell into the starry sky of the heavenly Tao, they all revealed their ultimacies. Just those ultimacies alone were enough for Xiaohua to comprehend. Now that the water origin had entered the starry sky, it could be said that the 5 elemental origins had reached perfection. All kinds of ultimacies were revealed in front of Xiaohua. All kinds of freshness and excitement flooded Xiaohua and the heavenly Tao Xiaohua like waves. After a few more days, the special envoy's flying ship didn't delay at all. It shone brightly in the spatial storm and soared into the sky. In the distance, in a mountain valley, the Taoist Yuan Kong flew out from the ground, dispirited and unwilling. He watched as the flying ship turned into specks of light and disappeared. His body seemed to have been stripped of its bones as he sat on the ground, paralyzed. After half a meal, he lowered his head, bent his waist, and urged his sword light to slowly leave. He was destined to be mediocre for the rest of his life, but this mediocrity also allowed him to enjoy peace. Perhaps he still hated Xiaohua, or perhaps he still imagined that something strange would happen when he arrived at the Lost Land. However, there were no hypotheses in life. What didn't happen could only be guesses. Or perhaps, if the Taoist Yuan Kong had passed the selection, he would have passed the Wuming Mountain Range and died early in the wilderness? Xiaohua thought that after passing the selection, he would soon be able to go to the Wuming Mountain Range. the special envoy's flying ship did as he wished. It didn't stop and immediately rushed to the Wuming mountain range. However, this flight took several years. Several years couldn't be considered long. Bai Fei's void cloud pill hadn't been completed, but several years couldn't be considered short either. Bai Fei had already put away the gold-devouring beetles. He was too lazy to watch Xiaohua cultivate day after day. However, in these few short years, Xiaohua's body underwent a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering transformation. Xiaohua's mind entered the starry sky of the heavenly Tao to comprehend the 5 elemental origins ultimacies. This kind of harvest wasn't something that Bai Fei could imagine. In Xiaohua's body, the starry sky nascent soul and hundreds of nascent souls had also completed their transformation. Xiaohua's starry sky nascent soul was different from the nascent souls of ordinary cultivators. He cultivated the immortal world's scattering nascent soul technique. Moreover, the scattering nascent soul's 9th lightning tribulation was in the 10,000 demon realm. Therefore, after these scattering nascent souls passed the tribulation, they didn't produce any immortal qi. But after Xiaohua had returned to the Yilin continent, ever since the Tao seed had been planted, these hundreds of scattered souls began to produce strands of immortal qi. In a few years' time, 70% of these scattered souls who had passed the 9th tribulation had transformed into immortal qi. If it weren't for Xiaohua's physical body and Su Ji's immortal talisman, Xiaohua would have already ascended. In addition to Xiaohua's scattering nascent souls, the Thunderbolt Immortal also had obvious changes. Although he cultivated the primordial spirit technique from the upper realm, 60% of the true essence in his body had transformed into immortal qi. Celestial Being, Taoist Sorcerer, and the others also had changes. Moreover, the changes were very profound. However, Xiaohua was a little anxious and didn't have time to observe carefully. Today, after comprehending the profound meaning, he took his mind out of the space and pondered whether he should go to the Wuming mountain range alone. Just as he was thinking, there was a slight vibration outside the quiet room. Xiaohua raised his hand and a yellow talisman in the shape of a dove flew in. When it arrived in front of Xiaohua, it turned into ashes with a ting. A rather dignified voice was heard from it. "Everyone, we will reach the edge of the Wuming mountain range in 10 days. This old man's flying boat can only send you up to here. I, Xiong Tianjing of the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance, will send you off on the flying boat at that time. Please be prepared to welcome Xiong Tianjing." After the voice finished speaking, the ashes fell to the ground and the quiet room returned to its original tranquility. "AI, we're finally here." Hearing that they would reach the Wuming mountain range in 10 days, Xiaohua sighed and sat down cross-legged again. This should be the last danger in the Dawn Rain continent. When he thought of the Dawn Rain continent, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of Fairy Hong Xia, Jiao Xia, Huang Mingxiang and the others. Of course, the voices and smiles of Zhuohongxia, Xiang Yang, and the others also flashed through his mind like a merry-go-round. Even many memories came one after another like horses galloping. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, tip it, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 5008. Are these people still alive in this world? Xiaohua thought to himself. After all, it's been 1,000 years. The more he thought about it, the more agitated he became. Xiaohua simply focused on the inside of the space. At this time, the inside of the space was the same as the yang side of the space. It had already begun to take shape. Beneath the Xinhua continent, the netherworld blood sea was surging, and the netherworld fruit tree had turned into a continent that covered a large area of the blood sea. Countless netherworld beasts were gradually born. Even under the other spaces, there was a corresponding blood sea flowing, and the netherworld fruit tree had extended more branches into it. However, between the insides of these different spaces, there were some barriers that separated the insides of these spaces. Xiaohua didn't have the mind to look at this dark netherworld. Instead, he landed on the most special island in the blood sea. The netherworld lotus was still the same netherworld lotus, but the aura of the lotus was increasingly vigorous. This aura seemed to be connected with the entire inside of the space. The flickering of the netherworld lotus was like the breathing of the inside of the space. Between light and darkness, the entire space was shaking. Beside the netherworld lotus, there was also a motionless stone statue. The stone statue didn't look any different from last time. The small nose and small eyes reminded Xiaohua of Zhang Xiaohua's transformation. Shue shue. Jade Archive. Xiaohua looked at the netherworld lotus and whispered, "I'm finally going to return to the Dawn Rain continent." However, after saying this, Jade Archive Xiaohua closed his mouth again. He seemed to have thousands of words in his heart, but they were all stuck in his throat. Only this sentence was the first to be squeezed out. Perhaps it was because silence spoke louder than words. Xiaohua didn't say another word. He just quietly looked at the netherworld lotus, just like how he quietly looked at the sleeping Shue Shue, allowing the tears in her eyes to wet his Taoist robe. "Master?" Jade Archive Xiaohua then flew to the netherworld bamboo and whispered, "In your eyes, disciple has always been a disappointing disciple, causing you to lose face. Disciple was willful in the past and felt that it was fine as long as I cultivated well. It had nothing to do with face. But disciple ignored master's feelings. Disciple knows he was wrong. Master, please don't worry. Disciple will return to the Imperial Thunder Sect, to the Dawn Rain continent. Disciple will definitely obtain the glory you wish for 1,000 times, 10,000 times for you. Although this disciple still doesn't like these things, this disciple knows that master likes these things. This is enough." After he finished speaking, Jade Archive Xiaohua's heart stirred as he thought of another matter. He frowned and said, "Oh no, I forgot about this child. Now that I've arrived at the edge of the Wuming Mountain range, I should end this karma as soon as possible. I'm afraid I won't have the time to meet Vice Alliance leader Xiong." Subsequently, Jade Archive Xiaohua left the space and released the Dream Mirage Butterfly. Then, with a wave of his hands, he tore open the void and flew out of the Special Envoy's flying ship. Xiaohua's figure appeared in the distant sky. He looked towards the place where the sun rose, only to see that the distant horizon was gray. An indescribable pressure came from the gray, heavily pressing down on Xiaohua's heart. Xiaohua understood that it was the Wuming Mountain range. Xiaohua released his divine sense and looked around. His figure flickered as he teleported towards the east. A moment later, Xiaohua's figure appeared on top of a mountain. After standing still, Xiaohua thought for a moment and raised his hand to take out the Kunlun mirror. Under the urging of his magic power, he pulled Nuo Yeching out of the Shenhua continent. Nuo Yeching was sitting cross-legged in meditation. Xiaohua liked her even more than Xiang Zhili's jumpiness. Xiaohua couldn't bear to disturb his meditation and just stood quietly beside him, watching the sun rise in the distance. The gorgeous sunlight shone through the clouds on the ground. Caw! A bird's cry broke the tranquility of the valley. Nuo Yeching's eyes moved and opened. She saw the unfamiliar scenery and Xiaohua's figure standing with his hands behind his back. Nuo Yeching hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior greets Senior Zhang, and you can get up." Xiaohua didn't turn back but looked in the direction of the Wuming Mountain range and said, "Come and see, yes, Senior." Nuo Yeching didn't dare to neglect and stood behind Xiaohua, looking towards the east. Seeing the gray sky, Nuo Yeching's eyes flashed and she didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "Senior, this is the Wuming Mountain range, right?" "That's right." Xiaohua's voice was also a little low. With the flying boat's speed, there are only 10 days left. I don't know if you want to go into the Wuming Mountain range or to the edge of the Wuming Mountain range, so I let you out here. "Thank you, Senior." Nuo Yeching's chest was warm and she knelt down and kowtowed. "Junior will never forget Senior. Get up." Xiaohua shook his head. "It's just a small matter for me to help you. The one you should thank is your master. He taught you martial arts since you were young." As he spoke, Xiaohua waved his hand and called Lu Qingyu and Yuehua out. As soon as the two came out, they immediately bowed respectfully to Xiaohua and said, "Junior greets Elder Sect Master." You can get up now." Xiaohua helped the two up and said, "The Wuming Mountain range is in front. You can say goodbye to Yeching here. His path is different from ours. I'm afraid we won't have the chance to meet again in the future." "Yes, Elder sect master. When the two heard this, they were quite sad. They got up and looked at Nuo Yeching. Nuo Yeching's face was filled with ecstasy as she called out, Master, martial uncle, you two have already become senior's disciples? Hee, you silly child. Lu Qingyu's face was filled with sadness as he scolded, Senior is not a simple Dao Gate cultivator. He is the elder sect master of the Fortune Gate. How can I become his disciple? Senior's personal disciple accepted me and your martial uncle Yuehua. Lu Qingyu and Yu Hua had already learned everything about Xiaohua and the Fortune Gate on the Shenhua mainland. They had long been proud of being able to enter the Fortune Gate. Of course, without Xiaohua's permission, they didn't dare to say anything to Nuo Yeching when they saw that Xiaohua was still transforming. While Lu Qingyu was scolding Nuo Yeching, Yuehua stole a glance at Xiaohua's expression and said, Yeching, martial uncle has also watched you grow up and likes you very much. Your master didn't say anything else to martial uncle, but I already know that you are determined to come to the Wuming Mountain Range. Although I don't know what secrets you have, martial uncle really wants to tell you that the Fortune Gate is far from being comparable to my Chanha sect, nor is it comparable to the fallen Immortal sect. In fact, martial uncle feels that even the Chu-Pu Immortal Union is inferior to the Fortune Gate. Not just the Chu-Pu Immortal Union. I feel that the entire Dao Union is inferior to the Fortune Gate. Lu Qingyu couldn't help but interrupt, Little bastard, it's not too late to change your mind. Elder sect master won't care about this. How could Nuo Yeching not understand the anxiety in Lu Qingyu's heart when she heard her master scold her as a little bastard? She smiled faintly and looked at Lu Qingyu, then at Yuehua, and finally at Xiaohua, saying, Fellow masters, all of you are this junior's most intimate and most trusted people. Today, this junior will reveal the secret that has been hidden in my heart for hundreds of years. Let me say this first, fellow masters must keep this secret for this junior, and you must not tell anyone else. What do I want to tell others? Lu Qingyu really wanted to grab Nuo Yeching's ear and drag her to kowtow and enter the Fortune Gate. He couldn't help but scold, after we part today, we won't have a chance to meet again. Even if I tell you, who will know who you are? Yeching. Xiaohua also felt uncomfortable and said in a low voice, This is your own secret, you don't have to tell us. What we did for you is what we should do. You don't have to be burdened. Senior. Nuo Yeching replied, You can think like that, but this junior can't do so. Master has taught this junior since I was young, and now that we part, there is a possibility of life and death. How can this junior not tell this secret? Moreover, if this junior doesn't say it, Master will miss me for the rest of my life. Lu Qingyu coldly snorted. Even though he was about to cry, he still scolded, I won't miss you. If that's the case, then say it. Xiaohua said indifferently, This old man is also very curious. Why did you insist on coming to the Wuming Mountain Range? Senior. Nuo Yeching cleared her throat and asked, Do you believe in reincarnation? Reincarnation? Xiaohua asked curiously, Why are you asking this? Senior, don't ask this, first tell me, do you believe in it? Nuo Yeching smiled. I don't believe. Lu Qingyu rushed to answer first, That's all a lie, how can you believe it? This old man believes. Xiaohua glanced at Lu Qingyu and said, Qingyu, your cultivation is still shallow. In the future, you will understand that there is not only my Dao Gate in this world, there are many other cultivation paths. My Fortune Gate's fourth master may have the ability to interfere with reincarnation. Lu Qingyu opened his mouth, but he was too shocked to say anything. It's good that Senior believes it. Nuo Yeching was also a little surprised, but she continued, If this junior says that this junior reincarnated with the memories of my previous life, will Senior believe it? Dog. Lu Qingyu obviously wanted to scold Nuo Yeching, but he only dared to say one word because Xiaohua had already said, I believe. This old man has encountered such a thing before, although this old man has not confirmed it, but if you reincarnated with the memories of your previous life, this old man can also accept it. Nuo Yeching smiled and said, If that's the case, then it's easy to handle. Senior, please look at the Wuming Mountain Range in front of us. On the other side of the Wuming mountain range is a place called Million Mountain Range. This junior was born in Million Mountain Range in my previous life, and was a so-called soul cultivator in Million Mountain Range. Moreover, this junior was also a master refiner in Million Mountain Range. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, gift it, and Chapter 5009. At this point, Xiaohua's body trembled, and a strange expression appeared on his face. He stared at Nuo Yeqing with incredulous eyes, and a strong premonition arose from the bottom of his heart. Xiaohua suppressed the strong impulse in his heart, and listened to Nuo Yeqing continue. But perhaps it was because this junior had sacrificed too much to the soul beast in my past life, but in the end, this junior encountered a disaster and was killed by a six-eared macaque. Fortunately, I was kind to the millions of people of the Great God in Meng Mountain. The Great God Huda gave me a gift and let me die on the night of the Great God Hudu's sacrifice, a night with a red moon in the sky. Alas, this child! Lu Qingyu had no strength to scold him. He still didn't believe Nuo Yeqing's words. Xiaohua took a deep breath and said, "Yeqing, so you were Master Qin Qin in your previous life?" This time, it was Nuo Yeqing's turn to be shocked. His body shook violently, and he looked at Xiaohua with his eyes wide open. He cried out in surprise, "Senior, how did you know? Who are you? Could it be? Of course I am me." Tears appeared in Xiaohua's eyes. They were tears of joy. An indescribable ecstasy overflowed from the bottom of his heart like water. Once again, Xiaohua felt the great love of the heavenly Tao. He couldn't help but be moved by the miraculous fate between heaven and earth. As Xiaohua's voice fell, Xiaohua returned to his original appearance. "Jinren Xiao? You are really Xiaohua Jinren Xiao?" When Nuo Yeqing heard Xiaohua mention his name in his previous life, he also had a strong premonition in his heart. But when Xiaohua's face was revealed, he still couldn't help but cry out like Xiaohua. "Yes, time flies, the autumn moon vicissitudes, you and I meet again." Xiaohua couldn't help but sigh. Nuo Yeqing bit his lips, nodded fiercely, and said, "I should have thought of it long ago. In this world, if there is a person like you who cares about the world, doesn't care about the boundary between the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance, and respects the choice of others, who else can it be but Jinren Xiao? Whether it is Jinren Zhang or Jinren Li, they are both Jinren Xiao." Then, Nuo Yeqing continued in a self-deprecating manner, "Of course, I should have known that Senior was Taoist Xiao from the bloodline soul technique in the spiritual root selection method. It's just that reincarnation is only an instant. Junior was born in the Yi-Lin continent for only a few hundred years. Junior has forgotten the moment of reincarnation. Tens of thousands of years have passed between the Yi-Lin continent and the Xiaoyu continent. It's normal that Senior is able to cultivate to the peak of the human world. Therefore, I have never dared to believe that an expert like you is Taoist Master Xiao." Although Yue Hua and Lu Qingyu were already Fortune Gate's disciples and knew about the Fortune Gate's development and Xiaohua's experiences, they still didn't know about Xiaohua's fortuitous encounter. Therefore, they took Nuo Yeqing's words to be true. Lu Qingyu looked at Nuo Yeqing from head to toe and said worriedly, "Yeqing, then, how should I address you in the future?" "Hee, Master, the previous life is the previous life, and this life is this life. You are naturally this junior's master." Nuo Yeqing smiled and said, "The current Million Meng Mountains is still different from the Million Meng Mountains from several tens of thousands of years ago. Everything from the previous life has turned into smoke. That's good." Lu Qingyu nodded, but a moment later he said sadly, "That's not good. Although I know about your background, in the blink of an eye, we have to separate again. Yes, Master, after all, the Million Meng Mountains is this disciple's home. Disciple has left the Million Meng Mountains for a lifetime. Disciple wants to go back and take a look." Nuo Yeqing was a little hesitant. Looking at the gray sky in the distance, her eyes were blurred with homesickness. Xiaohua stroked his chin and looked at Nuo Yeqing thoughtfully. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile as he said, "Yeqing, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed." Nuo Yeqing was stunned. Retracting her gaze, she looked at Xiaohua in confusion and asked, "Senior, what do you mean? What is there for this junior to be disappointed about?" Although time has passed quickly, the shadow of time is still lingering on the Wuming Mountains. Xiaohua said, "If I'm not wrong, you've been blessed by the great god Hutu and reincarnated during the blood moon. Although you were born in different places, your previous life and this life were only separated by the night of sacrifice. You've lived for hundreds of years in the Yilan continent and hundreds of years in the Million Meng Mountains. If Ziming sees you, he'll definitely be very happy." Nuo Yeqing was stunned. After a while, as if she had just woken up from a dream, she said, "Say, Senior, if this junior was reincarnated during the night of sacrifice, this junior can understand. After all, to keep the memories of the previous life, I can't stay in the arms of the great god Hudu for a long time. But Senior's cultivation base, how could it soar from the Taoist Yuaning level to the supreme of the human race in just a few hundred years? This is too inconceivable." After Nuo Yeqing finished speaking, Yu Hua and Lu Yi's bodies also shook greatly. They looked at Xiaohua in horror and only had one thought in their hearts: damn it, if all the cultivators in the world were to add up their years, they would have lived like dogs. Actually, Xiaohua didn't want to talk about how his cultivation base soared, but in front of Nuo Yeqing, who used to be Master Qin Qin, Xiaohua didn't have any reason to hide it. "So," he said with a smile, "Hee, you've been blessed by the great god Hutu, and you can reincarnate with your memories. In the past few hundred years, your cultivation base has far surpassed that of other cultivators. Why can't I have other opportunities?" Nuo Yeqing sighed and said, "Senior, if I tell you about my opportunities, my master and martial uncle will believe it, right? But Senior's opportunities, I'm afraid they won't believe it even if they're beaten to death, right?" Yes. Yuehua and Lu Qingyu nodded like chickens pecking at rice and responded numbly. In front of these two geniuses, they had nothing to say. "If I tell you about my opportunities, you'll naturally understand, but this opportunity is too dangerous, so I can't disclose it." Xiaohua said with a smile, "Anyway, you should believe that there is no shortcut to cultivation in this world. I also cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years to reach my current cultivation base." "Oh, no wonder." Nuo Yeqing nodded. She knew that this was Xiaohua's secret, so she didn't ask any more. Xiaohua turned his head to look at Lu Qingyu and Yuehua, and said in a somewhat stern tone, "Yeqing has lived 2 lives and has experienced a lot. I can tell her this without worry, but your Tao heart is still shallow, so I'm not at ease. You must remember this." Yuehua and Lu Qingyu's hearts trembled, and they hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior understands, please rest assured, Sect Master." "Senior," Nuo Yeqing said with a smile, "my master is very lazy. He likes to take shortcuts, but he won't be able to go far in this life. Martial Uncle Yu, on the other hand, will be much stronger than my master in the future. You just need to train Martial Uncle Yu more." "You little brat." Lu Qingyu glared at Nuo Yeqing and scolded with a smile, "Is there a disciple like you? You don't say good things about your master in front of Sect Master." "Lazy." Xiaohua's heart moved, and he immediately thought of his master Xiao Hongyue. If the word lazy was used, Lu Qingyu was exactly the same as Xiao Hongyue. Is it possible that this Lu Qingyu is master's reincarnation? Damn it, this is big trouble. Xiaohua wanted to let Nanwu Methreya perform his magical power, but after thinking for a while, he realized that Lu Qingyu was different from Nuo Yeqing. He didn't have the memory of his previous life. He had just made it clear that the previous life was the previous life, and this life was this life. He mustn't use his magical power to mix things up, otherwise, karma would be entangled. So Xiaohua suppressed this thought, looked at Nuo Yeqing and said, "Yeqing, back then you gave me your refining inheritance and the token of your sect, and asked me to find a successor for you. It seems that there is fate in the unseen world. A few hundred years is not enough for me to find a successor for you. So, these things, I'll return them to you. You can consider them as returning the jade to its rightful owner." After saying that, Xiaohua's Kunlun mirror shook again, and the soul nest that Master Ni Qin had given him appeared in his hand. Xiaohua glanced at it. There were many bones, soul tools, refining methods, jade slips, and sword slips inside. Even Master Ni Qin's token was inside. Xiaohua solemnly handed it to Nuo Yeqing. Nuo Yeqing didn't immediately take it. Instead, he looked at it with tears in his eyes. This was what his previous life entrusted to him, and today, fate had passed on to him. He had mixed feelings, and he didn't know whether to thank Xiaohua for keeping his promise or to thank Hutsu God for the gift. Take it, it's yours. Yuehua sighed in her heart and said in a low voice. Thank you, Master Xiao. Nuo Yeqing nodded slightly at Moonlight, took the soul nest, and said to Xiaohua, I really didn't expect that there would be a day like this. There are many things you didn't expect. Xiaohua said with a smile. Do you want to know what happened to the six-eared macaque that attacked you that day? I'm a little curious. But when I asked Senior to let me go that day, I already had my own decision. Nuo Yeqing was already indifferent to the hatred of his previous life. He said lightly, I think it's because I sacrificed too many soul tools and killed too many soul beasts. That's what. I don't want Senior's hands to be stained with blood again. I'm actually very curious. Xiaohua smiled and was about to ask, but when he saw Lu Qingyu and Moonlight here, he knew it wasn't appropriate for them to know too much. He changed his mind and said, By the way, Yeqing, I can't find you a disciple, but I can find you a master to teach you the soul cultivation inheritance of millions of Meng mountains? This. Nuo Yeqing hesitated and whispered, Senior, although my sect is different from the Dao sect, but what? Little brat. Lu Qingyu scolded in a low voice. Don't worry. Xiaohua smiled and said, It's not too late to make a decision after you see the master I found for you. As he spoke, Xiaohua activated the Kunlun mirror and invited Daoist which out. P.S. Fellow Daoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and Chapter 5010. As soon as Daoist which appeared, an aura comparable to that of a soul cultivator's emanated from his body. Not only was Daoist witch's three corpses in lightning very familiar to Nuo Yeqing, but the terrifying crown on Daoist witch's head made Nuo Yeqing feel an inexplicable sense of worship. Even though Daoist witch's eyes were black and white, Nuo Yeqing felt as if all of her secrets had been seen through by him. His eyes were filled with soul strands and green seal text. Why did you call me? Daoist which usually didn't reveal this kind of aura, but now he asked in a serious manner. Eyes greetings. Xiaohua said with a smile, This is the reincarnation of Master Qin Qin that this poor Daoist mentioned to fellow Daoist before. He has the memories of his previous life, and this poor Daoist sees that he is a good seedling for cultivation, so I would like to ask fellow Daoist to accept him as a disciple. Daoist which looked at Nuo Yeqing from head to toe and shook his head slightly. Although this child has the memories of his previous life, his place of reincarnation is not the Wuming Mountain range, so he can't really cultivate soul techniques from a young age. Moreover, I see that his soul cultivation realm has also gone astray. Some soul cultivator's strength is not the authentic Nine Heavens spirit origin realm. Xiaohua knew that this was Daoist witch's idea, so he smiled and said, In any case, Master Go Qin is destined to be with us. He was not born in the Meng Mountain range, which is naturally a test from the Huda God. He was waiting for our arrival here. Moreover, the heavenly Tao is fair, and this is also a kind of test for him. Please consider it. Seeing that Daoist which was still thinking, Xiaohua said to Nuo Yeqing, Lu Qingyu and Yuehua, This is our Fortune Gate's sixth master, Daoist witch. You have never seen him before. Greetings, sixth old master. Lu Qingyu and Yuehua had naturally heard of Daoist witch's name before. They immediately knelt down and kowtowed when they saw the sixth old master, whom everyone had only heard of but never seen before, standing in front of them. Nuo Yeqing saw Daoist witch's powerful sorcerer aura. How could she not know when to retreat? Without any hesitation, he hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed as he said, Senior, Junior Nuo Yeqing kowtows in salute to Senior. Since the day I was reincarnated, I've been thinking about the legacy of Soul Cultivator day and night, constantly wishing to return to Mount Meng. However, I was too young and weak to travel long distances. After I joined the Dao sect, I knew how dangerous the journey to the Wuming mountain range was. I didn't dare to take the risk with my weak body. Therefore, I secretly cultivated the art of duo cultivation in the Dao sect. Furthermore, this junior is also aware of my own shortcomings. I do not dare to rashly cultivate in profound soul techniques, only solidifying my foundation. It is this junior's fortune to be able to meet senior today, and it is also thanks to great God Hudu's guidance. This junior earnestly requests senior to accept this junior as your disciple. This junior does not dare to say that this junior will be the greatest disciple of the fortune gate, but this junior dares to say that this junior will not sully senior's name, and will not cause the destruction of my soul cultivation heritage. Xiaohua looked at Taoist Wu's hesitation. He also knew that Taoist Wu had some Tao teachings on the Shenhua continent. After all, the people born on the Shenhua continent were far more talented than the ordinary cultivators on the Yilin continent. In the eyes of ordinary people, Nuo Yeqing was not simple, but in the eyes of Taoist Wu, she was nothing. However, he could not underestimate Master Ni Qin's karma, and Nuo Yeqing was not born on the Yilin continent for no reason. Therefore, Xiaohua smiled and said, Taoist Wu, you and I are both mortals. We all understand that talent is important, but the most important thing is the heart towards the Tao, and also the opportunity. Nuo Yeqing lacks neither of these, so I feel that he will have a great fortune in the future. Taoist Wu nodded and said, Taoist Wu is right. Talent and opportunity are innate, and the heart towards the Tao comes later. If Nuo Yeqing knows shame, then he can be trained. Nuo Yeqing was overjoyed, and hurriedly kowtowed and said, Disciple Nuo Yeqing greets Master. After Nuo Yeqing kowtowed 9 times, Taoist Wu smiled and said, That's it for today. This old man will accept you as my disciple. In the future, if there is an opportunity, we will conduct the ceremony of apprenticeship ceremony. You may rise. Thank you, Master. Nuo Yeqing stood up respectfully, and her emotions were surging like waves. He was very clear that even though he had cultivated for his entire life in his previous life, his soul cultivation strength was probably not 1 in 10,000 compared to this 6th master of the Fortune Gate. Moreover, although he had never seen the Shaman King of the Meng Mountains, he could feel an indescribable aura from Taoist Wu. He firmly believed that this Taoist Wu was definitely not inferior to the Shaman King. And this old man will go back to cultivate first. You can settle your karma with Taoist Xiao. Taoist Wu nodded and instructed. This disciple respectfully sends off Master. Nuo Yeqing hurriedly bowed. The Kunlun mirror in Xiaohua's hand vibrated, and after Taoist Wu entered the space, Lu Qingyu and Yu Hua were overjoyed and congratulated Nuo Yeqing. Lu Qingyu even shouted, That's not right, 6th master of the Fortune Gate has accepted Yeqing as his disciple. Wouldn't this disciple be a generation younger than him? Yu Hua glared at him and said, Yeqing has lived a lifetime longer than you. Senior sister, little brother didn't come out of this life for nothing. Lu Qingyu shrunk his neck and said with grievance, Who doesn't have this life and the afterlife? Hee, you all are gathered in the same sect, why not? Xiaohua smiled and said, The status of master and disciple is just a title, it represents the past, but it doesn't necessarily represent the future. Whether he calls you master or not, you are still alive and standing in front of him. It's better than not seeing him at all, right? Yes, 1st master of the Fortune Gate is right. Yu Hua said with a smile. Although she understood that the dream in her heart was just a dream, she was already satisfied to be able to see that tall figure standing in the distance like a mountain. Lu Qingyu hurriedly smiled and said, This disciple was just saying, 1st master of the Fortune Gate, please don't take it to heart. I originally wanted you all to say goodbye to Yeqing. Xiaohua said with a smile, Since there's no need to say goodbye, you all can go back first. However, you all have to remember that only a few of us know about Yeqing's matter, don't let others know. Yes, this disciple understands the pros and cons. Lu Qingyu and Yu Hua's expressions turned cold. After bowing, they were also sent back to Shenhua continent by Xiaohua. Alright. Xiaohua clapped his hands and put away the Kunlun mirror. He took out 2 praying mats and threw them on the ground. He casually sat down and pointed to the other praying mat and said, "You also sit. Today, this old man will ask you about your past. From now on, this old man will not ask any more." Yes, first master of the fortune gate. Nuo Yeching was also well-mannered. Although she casually sat down, she still spoke respectfully. Xiaohua actually didn't care about this. After Nuo Yeching sat down, he said, "This Xiao is actually very curious about what happened in the valley that day. Master Ni Qin seems to have already known about her death. Sai, this junior has always wanted to let go of this matter, but from time to time, it would always surface in my mind. I think I have to explain it to senior today." Nuo Yeching couldn't help but sigh and explain, "Actually, in the end, this matter was brought up by senior." Xiaohua didn't say anything and just quietly listened to Nuo Yeching's explanation. "I remember that day when senior and the others came to the valley with Ziming. Ziming took out the soul lamp and asked Master Ni Qin to repair it. Master Ni Qin repaired the soul tool for the 3rd time, and after the repair, she was going to return to the embrace of great god Hutu. But suddenly, Ziming took out the rejuvenation pill concocted by senior, and Master Ni Qin was very happy. Then, when she heard that senior was Taoist Xiao, Master Ni Qin was even more ecstatic. She went forward and thanked senior, thanking senior for saving millions of people of Meng Mountain from danger. Nuo Yeching explained calmly. The Master Ni Qin he mentioned was naturally his previous life, but he didn't mention himself, but Master Ni Qin. Obviously, he wanted to separate the identities of the 2 lives. But when Master Ni Qin raised her head, she actually saw a river of stars in senior's eyes. What was even stranger was that at that moment, Master Ni Qin was trapped in it, as if she was experiencing it herself. She saw her own death. Later on, this junior kept thinking about why this happened. After thinking for a long time, I finally understood. Perhaps senior was cultivating some kind of Taoist magic, and Ziming's words touched senior, causing senior to enter a kind of epiphany, which allowed Master Ni Qin to peek into the secrets of heaven in advance. As expected, Xiaohua nodded sadly. Master Ni Qin was the same as Xue Xue. Both of them saw their own karma in the river of karma when he was cultivating the hand of karma. Later on, Master Ni Qin couldn't sleep at night, thinking about how to avoid it. But in the end, Master Ni Qin understood that this might be a kind of fate, the consequence of staining her hands with too much blood of soul beasts. Nuo Yeching continued to explain. So, Master Ni Qin let go of the knot in her heart and passed down the legacy of crafting to the first elder. She also told the first elder that there was no need to avenge her. Of course, Master Ni Qin knew that she didn't have much time left, so she didn't want to waste the precious rejuvenation pill. However, humans are humans after all. It is inevitable that Master Ni Qin would become weak at the moment of death. After sending the first elder and the others away, Master Ni Qin also wanted to save herself, so she urged the disciples in the valley to pack up and prepare to escape. Nuo Yeching continued, but when she escaped to the reception stage, death finally came. At this point, Nuo Yeching hesitated. She didn't want to mention the 6-eared macaque, but when she thought about how she had already mentioned it without knowing Xiaohua, she simply continued. The 6-eared macaque came over, and Master Ni Qin only saw the true appearance of the murderer before she fainted. Of course, Master Ni Qin woke up for a moment and wanted to write about the 6-eared macaque, but she only wrote one word before she passed away. "Oh, senior, just now you said that you met someone who also had the memories of his previous life. Was it Master Ni Qin? How do you know what happened after that?" P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Chapter 5011. Of course, it's Master Ni Qin. Xiaohua smiled. After I left with Ziming, I encountered the Hudu great god's sacrificial night. Thinking of all the strange things about Master Ni Qin, we immediately returned and saw the tragedy in the valley. Unfortunately, we only saw the word 6 and didn't know who the murderer was. Ziming thought it was little 6. Of course, karma is strange. Later on, I met six-eared macaque and took him away from Xiaoyu continent. I also found out that he was the murderer of Master Ni Qin. That day, I wanted to kill him, but I remembered Master Ni Qin's instructions and didn't do it. Who would have thought that so many things would happen? Hearing that Xiao Hua didn't kill six-eared macaque with his own hands, Nu Yecheng smiled slightly. However, when Xiao Hua told him about the unimportant things in the Book of Sutras of Nirvana, he sighed again. Finally, after Xiao Hua finished, Nu Yecheng stood up and looked at the setting sun. He took a deep breath and said, "Today's sun will eventually set, and tomorrow's sun will definitely rise. Tomorrow's sun will definitely not be today's sun. Senior, please promise me that Master Ni Qin already lives in the hearts of millions of people in Meng Mountains. I am Nu Yecheng now, so please don't tell this secret to anyone else, including Ziming." Xiao Hua stood up and looked at Nu Yecheng meaningfully. "What you said is actually what I'm thinking. If you're willing, I can also erase your memories, Lu Qingyu's and Yuahua's memories. Senior is so resourceful that I admire you." Nu Yecheng smiled. "However, you don't have to do that. If you can't let it go, even if you erase it, you might be able to remember it at any time. No method can compare to letting it go. Not bad, not bad." Nu Yecheng's words reminded Xiao Hua of the water of oblivion. He clapped his hands and said, "With this heart, your cultivation will definitely reach great heights in this life." "I don't dare to have extravagant hopes," Nu Yecheng said respectfully. "I only know that I will take every step steadily." "Good." Xiao Hua nodded. "If that's the case, there's no need for you to return to Meng Mountains. Just cultivate in Shenhua continent." "Yes, I understand," Nu Yecheng replied. "The sixth elder of the sect master's knowledge is as vast as the sea. To be able to listen to his teachings, this junior is already satisfied with this life. It doesn't matter if I return to Mount Meng or not." Done. Xiao Hua let out a long sigh and rubbed his palms together. Another karma has been resolved. This old man's heart has become even more relaxed. "Thank you, elder." After Nu Yecheng bowed to express her gratitude, Xiao Hua sent her into the Shenhua continent. However, Xiao Hua wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he stood there with his arms crossed as he looked at the setting sun. He had an indescribable feeling in his heart as the karmic hand in the space rapidly expanded once again. Seeing that the night was about to pass and the morning star was about to light up, Xiao Hua revealed a smile. He raised his hand and waved it. At the place where his finger touched, a spatial crack appeared. Just as Xiao Hua's figure flashed, he saw from the corner of his eyes that in the northern part of the sky that was already somewhat dark, a rainbow-colored radiance flew across the sky. It was precisely flying towards the eastern part of the dark night. That rainbow-colored radiance appeared very dazzling in the dusk. Xiao Hua's figure stopped, as he subconsciously looked towards the glow. This glow was clearly different from the usual glow seen in the Yilin continent. It carried a kind of indescribable holiness, and this holiness was different from the Buddha's light. Xiao Hua immediately had an indescribable feeling when he saw it. Xiao Hua had just looked at the radiance, but before he could see clearly who was in front of the radiance, a clear light similar to the clear sight technique of a Confucian cultivator crossed the space and landed on Xiao Hua's body. "Oh!" Xiao Hua was a little surprised and secretly exclaimed, What kind of technique is this? Could it be that on the Yilin continent, other than Long Shenxi and Old Man Gu Qiong, there are other more powerful Taoist experts? A Golden Core 9th Refinement Stage expert from Xian Alliance? That's not right, this Dharma body doesn't seem to be a Taoist cultivator. As Xiao Hua pondered, the seven-colored radiance in the sky changed direction and flew towards Xiao Hua. When it flew closer, Xiao Hua could clearly see that it was a beautiful woman with a serene expression. This woman's face was round like a full moon, a pair of pitch-black eyes flashed with coldness. Her small cherry lips seemed to be a little captivating red. She had a straight, jade-like nose and crescent moon-like black eyebrows. A kind of indescribable calmness spontaneously arose. On her originally sculpted face, there was a red mole the size of a rice grain on the left side of her eyebrows. This was originally a flaw, but it gave the woman a kind of charm. That charm was faint, And not only did it make people not dare to blaspheme her, but it also made people who saw the woman's cold eyes feel a trace of warmth. The woman was dressed in a white robe that flashed with a faint luster. Her long beautiful hair was like a waterfall that draped over her back, and the curls were the ripples of the water. The woman flew in the air, and there were no fluctuations of mana around her. Instead, there was a layer of extremely dim, holy white light that protected the woman. This white light was like a protective brilliance, and was extremely tenacious. However, it still couldn't block Xiaohua's gaze. Xiaohua could already see that the woman's body was transparent, as if it was made of crystal. Even though the woman's hands were as soft as a flower and she was lightly pinching in front of him, Xiaohua could clearly see that there were several layers of light feathers stacked together on the woman's back. An indescribable light was flowing between the light feathers. Angel? Xiaohua's heart gave birth to an inexplicable feeling, and he secretly cried out, "This? What's going on? When did the Yilin continent become so chaotic? What Yao clan, what Devil clan, what Angel clan all appeared at once?" "For you." The woman flew closer and stood there elegantly. Her pair of beautiful eyes looked at Xiaohua, and her eyebrows slightly furrowed, as if she was vexed because she couldn't see through Xiaohua. That clear and melodious voice, like a lark, sounded in Xiaohua's ears. "This one is Xiaohua of the Taoist sect, and my Buddhist name is Taoist Master Xiao." Xiaohua slightly smiled and cupped his hands in greeting. "How should I address you, fellow Taoist?" The woman coldly replied, "My Tao is not your Tao. People of different Tao cannot make plans together. You don't have to address me as fellow Taoist. My name is Jianghu." Immediately after, the woman's eyebrows furrowed, and she seemed to ponder for a moment, then shook her head and said, "Your name is Xiaohua? How come I've never heard of your name before? With your cultivation, I should know, right?" Xiaohua heard this angel called Jianghu. One moment, "I," the next, "I," and the next moment, "I," clearly not from the Yilin continent. Thus, Xiaohua slightly smiled and said, "Jianghu, you are not a cultivator of my Taoist sect. How could you know this one's name? This one asks you, what kind of angel are you from the Holy Light realm?" Hearing this, Jianghu's originally ice-cold face suddenly showed astonishment. Her small cherry mouth slightly opened and she cried out, "How could you tell?" Following Jianghu's voice, "Weng." A buzzing sound came from her body, and the white robe draped around her suddenly turned into a pure and holy light screen. As the light screen soared into the sky, a seven-colored halo suddenly appeared on Jianghu's back. The halo was like a blooming flower, and a pair of 10-zhang-long wings slowly spread out. At this moment, the wings were already clear, and there were actually 7 layers. Between each layer, a dense and pure aura leaked out. Moreover, as the 7 layers of wings flapped, all the pure and holy light condensed into a huge scepter. Woo-woo! A strange chanting sound came out of nowhere, and it enveloped the surroundings several hundred li. On top of the scepter, there was a strange solemnity and a kind of omnipresent authority. Like a Taoist sex restriction, it imprisoned Xiaohua in layers. The entire space was filled with a kind of milky white, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was blocked by this milky white color. At the same time, Jianghu's handsome appearance began to blur, and a kind of transparency gradually covered that kind of beauty. What was special was that Jianghu's pair of eyes gradually lost the emotions of a human, and a milky white dot of light shone from within. In just a moment, it had already rushed out, and Jianghu lightly reprimanded, "Evil creature, why are you still not showing your true form?" 2 pigeon-like figures rushed out of her eyes, and flapped their wings as they charged toward Xiaohua. "Hee." Xiaohua lightly smiled, and raised his hand and said, "On my Yilin continent, among all the living beings, you actually dare to call this old man an evil creature? If this old man is an evil creature, then what are you?" Where Xiaohua's finger landed, the space let out a kacha. Crisp sound, and it was like glass shattering. The space that was enveloped by the pure and holy light and the scepter's authority instantly shattered. The sealing aura from before also shattered into pieces. What was special was that these cracks spread out extremely quickly, and before Zhang Jie could react, they had already surrounded him. Zhang Jie was shocked. His transparent face and his peerlessly beautiful appearance appeared once again. His beautiful eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and it really made one's heart ache. Following Zhang Jie's exclamation, the shattered fragments of the scepter fell into the 7 layers of light feathers. As the light feathers spread out once again, woo-woo. Sobbing sounds suddenly rang out, and the scepter turned into 7 milky white droplets. They were like tears, and those tears were filled with compassion, destruction, and supreme will. Within 1,000 miles, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth instantly turned into nothingness. What kind of technique is this? Xiaohua was shocked, because he already had a body of laws. Wherever his gaze landed, he could see the laws of all things. And when his gaze landed on the 7 tiers, other than the torrential bitter water, he also saw men and women in strange clothes howling in grief. Battles that left corpses lying in 1,000 miles erupted under the bitter water, and a kind of power that could destroy heaven and earth was brewing in this bitter water. This power might not be comparable to Su Ji's or Fairy Xingyu's, but if it were to land on the Yilin continent, even Xiaohua, a supreme cultivator who had already reached the 10th grade of elemental energy, might not be able to withstand it. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, and reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5012. However, before Xiaohua could be surprised, there was a ka-cha-cha. In the sky, an invisible sound of thunder was heard, and the restriction of heaven and earth fell from the sky. Before Zhang Jie's 7 tears could escape from her light feather, it immediately turned into fragments, and all kinds of misery and mercy were also shattered. A look of regret appeared on Zhang Jie's surprised face. However, before she could retract her light feathers and activate her divine ability again, a look of realization appeared on her pure and holy face. Because at the same time that the 7 tears shattered, the power of Xiaohua's finger, the spatial crack that could kill all things in space, suddenly stopped in front of Zhang Jie's 7 light feathers. It didn't hurt the light at all. Xiaohua clearly did not have the intention to kill Zhang Jie. Since she understood Xiaohua's meaning, Zhang Jie did not use the holy light again, and Xiaohua did not use the sword gourd that had already touched Zhang Jie's mind. However, Xiaohua still looked at Zhang Jie with some caution, because he understood that Zhang Jie was definitely not as cute and harmless as he thought. Her strength might surpass his, and if not for the restriction of the laws of heaven and earth on the Yilin continent, he might not be her opponent. As the two waited for a moment, the spatial crack gradually disappeared, and the light around Zhang Jie's body faded. Zhang Jie crossed her arms to protect her chest, and the light feather that had been retracted trembled slightly, like the wings of a frightened dove. You're actually so powerful? Zhang Jie looked at Xiaohua in disbelief, and said in surprise, "You have such strength. Why are you still in the human world?" Xiaohua did not understand the Holy Light Realm and the angels of the Holy Light Realm. Zhang Jie was the first angel he had seen. He had only heard some secrets from the Mahavairakana Buddha, but he knew from the tone of the Mahavairakana Buddha that although the Buddhist kingdom and the Holy Light Realm were enemies, the Mahavairakana Buddha still held the angels in high esteem. Therefore, he still had the most initial good impression of the angels, and this so-called Zhang Jie, because Xiaohua knew that whether it was the Buddhist sect or the angels, they all had their own beliefs and their own bottom line. And Xiaohua also believed that regardless of the bottom line, as long as it was a cultivator with a bottom line, they should be respected, regardless of whether the other party was a friend or an enemy. In particular, when Zhang Jie saw that his strength was restricted by the Yilin continent, and when he saw Xiaohua's goodwill, he immediately stopped. Clearly, he was the kind of cultivator who did not want to provoke others. Therefore, when facing Zhang Jie, Xiaohua felt as if he was facing a bodhisattva of the Buddhist sect. Holding the most basic and kind attitude, he rubbed his nose and smiled. "Zhang Jie, shouldn't this old man be the one asking you this question? Why aren't you staying in the sacred light realm? Why have you come to my Tao sect's Yilin continent?" Angels were not good at lying. Faced with this mysterious human cultivator who seemed to be no weaker than her, Zhang Jie was a little hesitant. She did not dare to reveal her origins for fear of bringing trouble to the Holy Light Realm. However, she could not speak blindly either. For a moment, she was a little embarrassed. The more Zhang Jie acted like this, the more Xiaohua smiled in his heart and waved his hand. Since that's the case, it's fine if you don't say it. This old man has the Buddha fruit from the Buddhist sect. Moreover, this old man's good friend is also a disciple of the Buddhist sect. If you tell this old man about his past, this old man will also be burdened. It's better not to say it. When Zhang Jie heard this, she could not help but turn pale with fright. In a flash, she actually flew back more than 10 li. It can't be. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. This old man knows that the Buddhist kingdom and the sacred light realm are enemies. If this old man wanted to make a move, I would not have stopped just now. Since this old man is open and honest, I have no intention of making a move against you. When Zhang Jie heard this, her face turned red again. The light wings on her back fluttered, and she quietly flew back a few li. Then she let out a long sigh of relief and said, "Thank you, Taoist Xiao." However, it was only for a moment. Zhang Jie raised her head again and asked curiously, "Taoist Xiao, how did you get the Buddha fruit from the Buddhist sect? Why can't I see the Buddha light and light from Taoist Xiao? What's the cultivation of your good friend?" Sweat. Xiaohua did not know whether to laugh or cry. He secretly said, "It said that female cultivators have a gossipy heart. It seems that this angel is the same." Xiaohua naturally wouldn't say it out loud. He only smiled and said, "I was originally a disciple of Tao sect, but Buddhist sect insisted on giving me a Buddha fruit just because I did some good deeds to the world. It was so nondescript that of course you couldn't see it. As for my good friend's cultivation, I don't know." Speaking of this, Xiaohua asked curiously, "By the way, where are you going?" Zhang Jie's face turned red again. He did not immediately answer. Obviously, he did not want to lie. "Ha, I won't ask any more." Xiaohua laughed. He raised his finger and drew a line in the void. A space crack appeared, and Xiaohua's figure flashed and floated into it. Then he turned back and said, "This is the Yilin continent. There are many cultivators of the Tao sect, and you are an angel of the holy light realm. In their eyes, you are a vile creature. Although this old man will not make a move against you, I can't guarantee that old man Gu Qiong, Taoist Ji Yen, Bright Moon Householder, and the others will not make a move against you. You must be careful. Oh, if you meet them and you don't want to kill them, and you can't escape, you can mention my name. Maybe they will know what to do." After saying this, Xiaohua's figure fell into the void and disappeared. Zhang Jie flapped his wings and flew to the void. With a flap of his wings, countless holy light swords rushed into the void, and the void was torn apart again. Then, Zhang Jie's eyes flashed with white light and swept across the void. After a while, Zhang Jie said in a low voice, "What kind of Tao sect's divine ability did Taoist Xiao use? Why can't I see the spatial imprint of his teleportation? Could it be that he really came from the immortal realm?" Zhang Jie stood in midair for a long time. When the holy light dissipated and the moon rose, he raised his head slightly and looked in a direction. He said curiously, "Strange, why is he here? Could it be that he still hasn't given up?" After saying this, Zhang Jie flapped his wings again and flew toward the Wuming mountain range in the east, which looked like the outline of a monster. Xiaohua landed on the envoy's flying boat without attracting anyone's attention. Xiaohua sat down cross-legged and put away the dream mirage butterfly. He frowned and said to himself, "Damn it, why is the Yilin continent so chaotic? It is not as pure as my Xiaoyu continent. Even an angel from the holy light realm has appeared." However, when he thought of this, Xiaohua laughed involuntarily. When he left the Xiaoyu continent, he only had the strength of a Yuanying realm cultivator and the things he could see were few. However, even with the strength of a Yuanying realm cultivator, he had seen demons, and even Buddhists. Now that he was already a sovereign of the human race, it wouldn't be a big deal to see another angel, right? His way of thinking was favoring one and discriminating against the other. But this Zhang Jie, what is his purpose in coming to the Yilin continent? Xiaohua's eyes turned slightly, Could it be to find the sacred weapon suppressed by the demon sovereign's corpse? What is the origin of this sacred weapon that is worthy of a seven-winged throne angel coming to the mortal world? However, this seven-winged throne angel is very powerful. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua stared blankly and shook his head. No, the Holy Light Realm is a realm on par with the Buddhist kingdom. A seven-winged throne angel is also a divine existence in the Holy Light Realm. How could it only have such strength? If Zhang Jie was really a throne angel, I'm afraid even Su Ji would not be his opponent. How could this Xiao scare him? Or is he injured? Is he unable to activate the holy light? Or is he a one-winged angel of the lowest level? But how could there be 7 layers of light feathers? No matter what, many of his light feathers are blurry. I'm afraid he really is injured. Xiao Hua let his imagination run wild for a moment. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the bottom of his heart. Namo Maitreya Buddha, Xiao Tanyue, this seat did not disappoint you. Before leaving the Yilin continent, I finally finished modifying the 9 transformations golden pill cultivation technique. Xiao Hua was shocked. He said in disbelief, Buddha Lord, are you sure? You really finished modifying the 9 transformations golden pill cultivation technique? This is probably the first Taoist cultivation technique that was modified by a Buddha Lord of the Buddhist sect? Back then, Xiao Hua felt that the Taoist sect's 9 transformations golden pill sounded similar to the Buddhist sect's 9 transformations golden body, so he casually threw the cultivation technique to the Maitreya Buddha. However, he really did not expect that the Maitreya Buddha would really finish modifying the 9 transformations golden pill cultivation technique during the few years he was comprehending the origin of water. This seat will not go out. Tanyue, come in and take a look. The Maitreya Buddha replied with a smile. Xiao Hua's mind entered the Shenhua continent and turned into Jade Archive Xiao Hua. He saw the Maitreya Buddha sitting cross-legged on the 9-grade lotus platform. In the distance, the thunderbolt Immortal had turned into lightning, and a seed of profound meaning was sprouting in his body. Looking at the other side, the Celestial had also manifested 3 heads and 6 arms. Pillars of light were spewing out of his mouth like dragons. His originally golden body was now filled with a water-blue luster. I understand. Jade Archive Xiao Hua said with a smile. The Maitreya Buddha put his palms together and said, Let me tell you, fellow Taoist. This 9 transformations golden pill cultivation technique is essentially a Taoist sect's golden pill cultivation technique. However, it can be borrowed from the Buddhist sect's 9 transformations golden body cultivation technique. It is also mixed with the bone tempering technique of the ancient Celestial. Therefore, this seat asked the Thunderbolt Immortal and the Celestial to deduce together. It has nothing to do with me. The Celestial did not wait for the Maitreya Buddha to finish speaking and shouted, I was refining the origin of water, and the Buddha Lord forcibly took the bone tempering technique from me. Buddha Lord, you forgot that you also took the Demon Clan's cultivation technique of Feng Wu. The Thunderbolt Immortal's voice was like thunder, rumbling in the sky above the Shenhua continent. Namo Maitreya Buddha, you are right. The Profound Alliance has the 39 golden body cultivation technique, which is derived from the 9 transformations golden pill. There are some traces of the Demon Clan's cultivation technique, so this seat also borrowed some of the Demon Clan's cultivation technique. The Maitreya Buddha smiled and raised his hand to hand a few jade slips to Jade Archive Xiao Hua. He said, Tanyue, you can take a look. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all forms of support.